The story kicks off in a brutal brawl, where the barbarian is the last guy standing against thousands of enemies, his body totally locked up by some sketchy hex. To make things worse, he gets slapped with a mute spell, zeroing out any chance of dipping or calling for backup. The warrior's physical stats take a massive nosedive thanks to a shady curse. The enemy keeps spamming a slashing attack, aiming mercilessly to slice up our guy. Finally, the barbarian gets hit by the ultimate wipeout spell, a massive move only the enemy bosses can pull off. After tanking such a busted attack, the warrior stumbles around the battlefield. Completely out of gas, he hits the dirt, unable to keep his footing to stay in the fight. One of the boss villains is acting super cocky, totally convinced the W is already in the bag. Catching something weird going down behind him, he snaps his neck around. The boss is absolutely shook when the barbarian pops up, coldly dropping the news that he's still breathing. The only reason this dude survived the center of such a chaotic raid is thanks to a deal he made with the Celestials, who hooked him up with VIP perks, like understanding every language. A bony creature calls the warrior by his name, Wolfgang, calling him stubborn for hanging around this mess. Not loving the vibe, the MC asks if his skeleton buddy has lost his marbles. Keeping it cool, the skull claps back, asking what kind of sane human thinks picking a fight with the underworld is a bright idea. Right at that second, a heavy stomp absolutely rocks the ground. Backing up his bony bro, Wolfgang jumps in, fully primed to go on the offensive. The MC drops a devastating top-down strike, claiming he lost his mind a long time ago, and it's totally the bad guy's fault. With the enemies getting wiped off the map in droves, it's super obvious he scored a massive amount of divine buffs. The Sky Bosses basically gave him unlimited admin privileges to solo this entire raid. Dashing forward, the warrior sweeps a bunch of enemies at once with a single, crispy hit. Out of all his perks, one totally steals the show, right when the enemy boss tries to talk the barbarian into rage quitting. Ignoring the yapping, Wolfgang lands a clean punch right in the boss's face, flexing the healing factor he got from a fallen celestial. His skeletal hype man points out that even chopped off limbs back in no time, literally growing the MC's head back if things went south. Staring daggers at his rival, the warrior promises to keep spamming attacks until he deletes this commander for good. Out on the battlefield, the sight of an immortal dude wiping the floor with their army turns into pure nightmare fuel. Flexing some serious confidence, Wolfgang casually notes that the bad guy must be super tripped up right now. The skull gets sarcastic, asking who the real monster is here, and tossing out a friendly reminder that it's way too late to cry about poking the beer. Trying to put the brakes on this unstoppable bulldozer, over 10,000 enemies group up in one spot. A crazy fast arrow shoots down from the sky, proving that this was the perfect choke point to cut the MC's Wi-Fi connection to the Celestials. The barbarian chose to walk straight into this spot, fully knowing he was stepping into a massive trap. The shot nails the warrior in the shoulder, just a quick reminder that Payback was the one and only reason he joined this brutal server. His hit list had exactly one name on it, True, the guy who wiped out his entire family way back in the day. The target in question was exactly the commander hiding out, camping at the top of the fortress. That very same boss was the mastermind who set up the whole bait and switched to lure the MC there. In no time, a literal shower of arrows rains down on the warrior at the bottom. The barbarian turns into a pincushion, taking massive damage from the barrage. Since the camping strat worked flawlessly, the celestial buffs get totally nerfed inside that quarantine zone. Milking the moment, the commander trashes the MC, claiming that no matter how hard he tries, he's just a basic NPC at the end of the day. Sick of the trash talk, Wolfgang yanks an arrow out of his chest and lets the boss know he missed a tiny, crucial detail. Super triggered by the disrespect, the enemy curses the warrior out, showing his chill is totally gone. Seeing the threat getting too close for comfort, the boss orders the entire squad to rush in and try to body the barbarian. The MC gets into a fighting stance, flexing the second reason he's able to solo entire armies. He stopped being a regular dude a long time ago and leveled up into a force of nature that broke the level cap. The commander freezes up as he watches the insane energy radiating off his rival's body. Wolfgang reveals himself as a relentless beast who gets buffed with every fight, casually possessing the stats to clap an entire empire's army with just his bare hands. A massive energy blast wipes the area clean, leaving only the MC and the enemy boss standing. Totally locked in, the warrior points out that this raw violence is his truest vibe. The last boss standing absolutely loses it, realizing his entire guild just got soloed by one guy. Walking up to the enemy super slowly, the barbarian roasts them for always recycling the same villain lines, but warns him it's game over. Eyes locked on his prey, Wolfgang declares the bad guys are finished and his payback is complete, ready to finally log off and go back to his homeland. His current main quest is to rebuild the world these creeps wrecked back in the day. He just wants to go back to his adventurer days, exploring the map, deleting monsters, and looting rare drops. Covered in critical hits, the commander refuses to take the L, claiming his crew won't get cancelled that easily. The enemy cooks up one last desperate spell and wonders out loud if self-deleting right now would change anything. Completely unfazed, the MC claps back that it wouldn't change the garbage ending waiting for the rest of his crew. Rushing in for the finish, Wolfgang declares he isn't letting this boss dodge the banhammer by pulling the plug himself. In a total panic, right before eating the final hit, the boss triggers a massive ancient spell. The warrior gets slammed mid-jump by a heavy petrification hex. Totally glitching out, the barbarian tries to figure out what's happening as a blinding light swallows the area. Up in the sky, the Celestials are super confused and salty that the enemy boss managed to survive. While the Sky Veeps are freaking out, Wolfgang realizes his body just lost all audio and haptic feedback. The warrior's vision gets blurry as he watches the bad guy just dip from the server without any penalty. Watching his target fade into the dark, the barbarian burns his last bit of mana trying to block the exit. Locked in total darkness, he swears to keep hunting the boss and get his family back, silently begging for the lag to end. Suddenly, the scene jump cuts to a modern-day teenager who drops a loud "whoo" at something. Super hyped, the kid is staring at a statue of the MC displayed in a museum, tripping out over the crazy details. As soon as the human gets close, Wolfgang's consciousness reboots, super confused as to why he's picking up audio from this kid. A tour guide calls out to the boy, telling him not to wander off from the group, and he instantly replies. Slowly, the warrior's stone hand starts twitching, making him realize his 1,000-year lag spike is finally over. The MC abruptly wakes up for real and firmly grabs the back of the kid's head. With zero chill, the barbarian just barks at the kid to get out of his face right that second. Flexing his max strength, Wolfgang completely shatters his stone shell and breaks free for good. The museum crowd totally loses their minds seeing a statue basically respawn in the middle of the lobby. The warrior steps heavily on the floor, feeling the weight of his own body again after being AFK for way too long. Looking around with absolute disgust, he realizes this weird map is swarming with loud, annoying NPCs. Keeping his eyes on the prize, the warrior swears he's gonna hunt down that trash devil house now that his controller works again. Moving fast, he pulls up his status menu. Checking the stats, one specific thing makes the barbarian do a double take. Mind blown by the data, he sees that the server's demon population has skyrocketed like crazy. The massive number on the HUD leaves Wolfgang totally baffled about what this hunter job class even is. Full of salt, the MC asks himself why he's once again the only surviving barbarian on the server. His eyes look heavy, totally struggling to process how unreal this whole setup is. Just then, the warrior scopes out the room and notices a bunch of guys in suits surrounding the area, having no clue who this squad is. He wonders if all this drama is just because he yeeted someone into a wall. The barbarian tries to do the math on whether the problem is the guy who passed out, or if all this hype is just because he spawned in. The armed security guards look incredibly squishy from Wolfgang's point of view. Trying to de-escalate, one of the guys flashes a badge, claiming he's from the guild and demanding the MC's ID. Having zero clue what an ID card is, he just listens to the guy suggest playing nice and asking to see a hunter license. The warrior's patience hits zero, prompting him to rush forward and choke slam the guy with absolute brutality. The rest of the guards panic seeing their teammate get bodied, so they aim their gear right at the barbarian. The MC glares at the guy and drops a scary warning. He's not someone they have the stats to control. He lifts the dude off the floor with zero effort, but a woman's voice screams in panic, begging him to hold up a second. A girl nervously steps up, asking if the warrior is the legendary Wolfgang. She rushes to the middle of the room, trying to cool things down before the server completely crashes. Pausing out of nowhere, the barbarian drops the guard and asks how this random NPC knows his username. Yeren Kang introduces herself as a Hunter Association member and suggests they chat somewhere else, but gets instantly rejected. Turning his back, the warrior makes it super clear he couldn't care less about what this human has to say. The girl gives a polite smile, promising to hook him up with some food and a chill spot to rest if he tags along. Right on cue, the MC's stomach growls loud enough to wake the dead, proving he's starving after being a rock for ages. During the ride through the modern city streets, Yeren yaps about how the meta has changed, while Wolfgang just wants to know where they're dropping. The weird new slang gets the barbarian curious about what a hunter actually is, and she clears up that they're basically pros leveled up to fight demons and monsters. A black car rolls up to scoop them, and the girl explains that the endgame bosses are monitored by the devs, the government. Once inside the ride, she spills that the guild is always scouting for cracked newbies, and the MC himself was actually a target for one of their projects. Stepping out of the car, the agent mentions everyone thought he was just a cool prop until they found out about the ancient hex. Walking into a massive skyscraper, Urine guides the warrior while complaining about the lack of high-tier hunters to deal with the endless demon spawns. The barbarian checks out the skyline from the window, half listening to Urine brag about having a game plan the second she found him petrified. The sudden radio silence from the warrior makes the hunter look back to see what distracted him. She checks him out carefully, noticing her guest is hardcore hyper, fixated on something on the table. Wolfgang is staring down a freshly delivered giant pizza with a super intense, mind-blown look on his face. After grabbing a seat, the girl gestures to the grub, hyping the barbarian up to eat since she figures his hunger bar is at 0. The hunter mentions they tried to cleanse his debuff with healing magic but failed, while the warrior grabs his first slice. He takes a massive bite and is totally shook by the flavor, wondering how humans managed to craft such an OP meal. While destroying the pizza, the MC points at a dark bottle on the table, asking what potion is inside. The girl says it's soda, highly recommending he try it since it's the ultimate combo with the food. Without missing a beat, Wolfgang chugs a massive amount of the weird liquid straight from the big bottle. Sweating a little, Urine shyly asks if the flavor is a W. Wiping his mouth, the barbarian admits the carbonation jump scared his throat, but gives major props to how refreshing it is. Relieved that she didn't just poison the guest, the girl smiles and tells him to go crazy and eat it all. She asks for a quick timeout to run a quick Q&A, assuming the warrior has already figured out he spawned into a totally different patch. With a serious face, Wolfgang confirms he noticed the map update flashing back to all the wild stuff he saw during the car ride. The girl explains they're chilling in the 21st century, then hits him with the, "So what year are you from?" question. The MC admits he has no clue how the timeline works now, completely lost in the sauce with the new calendar. Booting up his memory, he mentions that when he was born, people were saying 1,000 years had passed since Rome dropped. The girl completely geeks out, slamming the table and hyping up the fact that her theory was 100% spot on. Grinning ear to ear, she confirms Wolfgang literally fast, traveled straight from the Middle Ages to the modern era. Urine is practically crying happy tears getting to chat with an OG from way back, totally nerding out because of her archaeology hunter class. The barbarian literally could not care less about her fangirling and ignores the lore dump, demanding they spawn in another pizza. He rubs his belly, super stoked to finally get his HP back, checking out the empty boxes scattered around. Wolfgang cuts the small talk and gets straight to the main quest, asking if she knows where that trash devil house is hiding. The staffer asks who this guy is, and the warrior clarifies it's the loser who hit him with the stone debuff. Asking for a sec, Urine pulls out her phone to search the hunter database, leaving the MC totally puzzled by the shiny rectangle. The search comes up empty, making the girl ask if this target is actually a monster mob. Keeping his poker face, he confirms the rival is a heavy hitter demon who managed to log out during their last 1v1. The warrior's face goes full try-hard mode, stating that right after he deletes this thing, he's heading back to Germania to squad up with his family. The hunter feels super bad for him and asks him to swallow the bitter pill, that his home server has been offline for a long time. The warrior repeats the name sounding totally skeptical, mind blown to learn his old turf is now part of a map called Norway. Staring at his reflection in the glass, he takes the hard truth that 1,000 years went by and all his lore is basically ancient history now. A quiet rage fills the barbarian, and he clenches his fist so hard the glass starts spider webbing. Losing his cool, he punches the glass hard, completely shattering the window from the insane impact. With absolute fire in his eyes, Wolfgang states as a hard fact that he is locked in on rescuing his family. Trying to be the voice of reason, Urine points out that even if he finds them, the timer ran out ages ago. The warrior cuts her off, explaining that reviving his squad was the main condition of his celestial contract, begging her to track the monster down. The girl promises with total empathy that if this demon is still logged into this world, she'll 100% pull his IP. He agrees to run with this strat, locking in the super random duo. The barbarian knows human NPCs are always out for loot, figuring the guild has an ulterior motive, but swears to go all out anyway. The MC's only demand to finalize the deal is that she burns all her cooldowns and resources to track the beast. Walking back through the halls, Urine drops the bad news that he can only do this legally if he grinds for a hunter license, since he has 0 citizenship points. She hypes up his obvious OP stats for the job, while Wolfgang just complains about how overly complicated the modern meta is. Once they hit the street, the girl tries to boost his morale, listing off all the perks of being a verified hunter. The MC gets curious about the loot, prompting the staffer to explain the jig comes with free base, building, and pay that scales with his rank. Continuing the chat in the car, Urine details that clearing the tutorial test drops a bounty of 10 million, a number that goes right over his head. She stresses there's an even crazier buff involved. If RNG is on his side during the test, he might score a contract with VIP entities called constellations. The warrior questions the slang as they pull up to the massive sports complex. The girl explains they're basically Star Guardian VIPs who drop buffs and sponsor cracked players. The MC mentions he knows about Celestials. Noting this is his first time hearing about these constellation guys, the girl replies it makes sense, since these beings only patched into the server 15 years ago. Walking into the huge gym, Wolfgang notices the massive lobby and asks if all these casuals want to be hunters. The staffer confirms, saying it's promotion exam day for the academy noobs. Pointing to the middle, she shows the MC a massive construct sitting right in the center. That thing is the test wall, totally juiced with the energy of the shield and spear constellation. To pass, you gotta smack the barrier and hit a high score over 500. The barbarian scans the wall and casually brags it would crumble if he just tapped it. Ignoring his flex, Yurin just asks him to follow her. At the front desk, the NPC asks if he's the next player up. The girl instantly replies, verifying the guest's username and ID. Because he's an undocumented alien, the desk guy demands a sponsor to let him play. Without missing a beat, the hunter flashes her archaeology badge to vouch for him and signs the terms of service. In the middle of the gym, a dude cosplaying as a Spartan warrior is holding a weapon. Yurin points out the test is starting, hyping up the spear of Leonidas. She explains the constellation's magic is going to flood the test wall the second the weapon gets planted. The proctor raises the spear, which glows with some crazy gold aura, before slamming it down hard into the floor. The second the weapon hits the holy ground, magical runes light up all over the rock. Instantly, a massive glowing circle pops up, signaling the arena is ready to scan the player's power levels. Watching the cutscene, the warrior thinks modern humans do way too much acting for such basic stuff. The proctor tells the chat to quiet down, officially starting the exams. Suddenly, Wolfgang's bored face completely shifts as he picks up a heavy boss aura flooding the room. A system message pops up in mid-air, announcing the constellation locked onto a weird player and is practically begging him to take the test right now. The crowd goes wild over the notification, super nosy to see who managed to catch the eye of such a top-tier VIP. Getting back on script, the staffer calls up the first player, sending Ko-Yuna to the center. The girl struts to the middle of the arena looking super cocky. Yurin instantly reads her player profile, part of a famous guild that mains the spear. Standing at the barrier, the girl charges up an insane amount of energy, making the archaeologist guess she already has a trial subscription with a constellation. The agent figures the divine notification makes sense now, waiting to see a legit sponsored player stunt on the casuals. Locking onto the target, Yuna speed dashes while covered in sick blue flames. Pouring all her mana into it, she smacks the magic wall with a massive nuke of a hit. The digital scoreboard flashes, dropping the heavy score of 1,254 points. The MC casually asks if that score is a W. The hunter confirms it's pro-level numbers and totally busted for a standard promotion test. Flashing a smug smile, Yuna is 100% sure Leonidas was just simping to watch her, but the system screen keeps spamming the alert for the chosen one to step up. Totally shook, the player's eyes bug out when she realizes the celestial DM was never meant for her. Making the cringe even worse, a new pop-up says her constellation thought her showcase was mid and instantly revoked her contract. Yuna grabs her own arm, totally devastated, unable to cope with getting nerfed in real time. A short-haired dude aggressively checks her, telling her to move and bragging that the VIP would never look her way while he's in the lobby. Treating his classmate like total garbage, he calls her a noob and roasts her for losing her trial buff. The chat quickly identifies the edgy kid as Kim Jin-woo, agreeing the VIP is probably eyeing him. The system announces the barbarian ancestors just dropped an energy buff on the kid. His arm instantly gets jacked, veins popping out everywhere. Charging up a red aura in his fist, he flexes that everyone else is irrelevant while he's on the server. Kim unleashes a massive ultimate on the barrier, screaming that the VIP's attention belongs to him alone. The shockwave makes Yurin flinch, making her wonder if a standard student should even have that kind of DPS. The scoreboard hits a wild 2,039 points. The crowd loses it seeing a candidate break the 2,000 barrier. People in the stands are whispering that this score is basically a world record for the test, which would totally explain the constellation's hype. Somebody says his stats are basically on par with an elite rank hunter. Hearing this, the kid actually thinks he's above that tier. Overflowing with ego, Kim looks up and basically asks the sky if his attack was enough for the MC they wanted. He drops a villainous laugh, fully expecting to get showered in praise, and officially verified. Instead, the arena gets hit with an unbearable lag, spike of pressure the second Leonidas roars in absolute rage. The kid drops to his knees, totally unable to tank the VIP's anger. Sweating buckets and stun locked on the floor, the candidate tries to process why he's getting aggro from the sky. Panicking, He demands patch notes from his own sponsor, pointing out that the barbarians promised Leonidas would be hyped. The arrogant kid beats his chest, self-proclaiming to be an elite player who's already farmed thousands of mobs. Completely clueless about what went wrong, the kid gets interrupted by the sound of heavy footsteps pulling up right behind him. Stopping next to the kneeling kid, Wolfgang coldly commands him to log off the stage, dropping the bomb that he wasn't the one the VIP was looking for. Kim jumps up, super salty about the interference. He trashes the warrior, calling him a boomer, and tells him to go wait on the bench because this lobby isn't for him. With zero chill lost, the barbarian claps back, asking if the kid's timer hasn't already run out. Things get spicy when he warns he's only holding back because someone asked him to, and demands the kid move. Ego bruised, the student grips the warrior's shoulder super hard and asks if he thinks this is a joke. The vibe between the two instantly goes dark as the MC slowly turns his head. A pure death stare glare locks onto the disrespectful kid. A heavy debuff of tension drops over the whole arena, while Yeren watches the stream without blinking. The warrior's eyes narrow, leaking an overwhelming aura that would paralyze any normal NPC with fear. Breaking the silence, Wolfgang interrogates the kid about his sponsor. He demands to know how the punk dares to treat the barbarian ancestors like trash, and orders him to apologize right now. Getting his ego back, the student hits him with sarcasm, saying even if they are newer VIPs without a massive sub count, some random nobody shouldn't be disrespecting them either. The cocky kid points a finger in the MC's face, warning that this toxic behavior will just draw the VIP's aggro. The barbarian doesn't even flinch, calmly suggesting they let the VIP answer that themselves. Looking up, he drops his full username out loud. The MC declares that if the VIP is actually from his clan, they'll recognize the gamertag. An invisible force eats Kim backwards super hard, and the kid screams in panic, having no idea what just hit him. A massive boss presence explodes in the gym, spawning a colossal spirit warrior floating in mid-air. Yeren is shook, barely able to speak as she realizes it's an ultra-rare physical spawn of a constellation. Booming through the room with deep bass, the VIP speaks to Wolfgang with total fanboy respect, calling him the barbarian MC. The entity tries to do damage control, explaining they didn't pick a trash tier title on purpose. They throw the kid under the bus, blaming the noob for not recognizing the absolute legend standing there. Shaking in fear of getting banned by his own ancestor, the spirit begs the MC to overlook the student's toxic behavior. Sighing, the MC agrees to drop the report, but he demands the admin take action right now, pointing out the kid is obviously abusing his borrowed hacks. The constellation instantly agrees, swearing the ban hammer was already on the schedule. Kim drops from the sky like a rock, completely stripped of the buff that was holding him up. The kid face plants hard, completely humbled by the nerf and stripped of all his ego. Red system warnings pop up in the air, confirming the VIP perma banned the student and his entire guild. The hunter watches the admin action, totally mind blown. She wonders who the heck this guy is, if he can force a top-tier dev to apologize in person. The dust starts clearing in the lobby, leaving only the barbarian standing in dead silence. Staring down the giant spirit boss, the barbarian reads the nameplate and asks if he's the real Leonidas. Unfazed, Wolfgang warns he's got a quest to finish and is going to flex a bit of his power, asking if the VIP can tank the hit. The massive spear stuck in the floor starts glowing crazy bright as it gathers mana. The system pops an alert saying the constellation is literally crying happy tears over the MC's arrival, dropping a massive E in the chat for his determination. Locked in, the warrior figures since the VIP popped his ultimate, he should show off his own stats. An insane eruption of aura explodes from the barbarian, cracking the floor and hijacking the entire server. The sheer DPS throws the students backward, causing a massive panic over the unplayable lag. A bunch of kids are struggling against the razor-sharp wind, completely failing their balance checks. Watching the chaos in shock, Yeren realizes this is way beyond a standard tutorial level. The girl stares at her duo partner in the middle of the energy storm, finally getting the scale of his power level. The archaeologist realizes the MC is actually the one running a stat check on the constellation. The warrior stands there like an absolute tank in front of the divine relic, giving off massive final boss energy. Chill as ever, he asks if it isn't a waste of time for the VIP to resist, advising him to just hit surrender because the MC has no plans to take an L. The energy nukes again, creating a massive pillar of light that blinds the entire room. One of the students starts freaking out, noticing the power scaling is way too fast, and soon the whole map will be a danger zone. Scared of a team wipe, a girl yells that things are going to get super toxic if someone doesn't hit the emergency stop. Suddenly, the energy storm just unplugs, leaving Yeren super confused by the dead silence. The crowd is totally lost by the sudden skip in the cutscene, wondering if the server crashed. Ignoring the girl, the warrior just walks away without dropping a single apology for the wrecked map. He casually announces he's logging off since this tutorial test is totally pointless for him now. Confused, Yurin asks why he's quitting so fast and what happens to his promotion quest. Panicking, the proctor rushes the barbarian, demanding patch notes for that crazy stunt. The NPC points in pure horror at Leonidas' sacred item, which is currently cracking until it shatters completely. Totally glitched out, the staffer has zero clue what to do about the server permanently losing such a top-tier legendary item. He stares at the pieces turning to dust, realizing the massive ban wave that's about to hit him. Later, the news is already running a live stream on the broken holy item, while the barbarian just chills with his drink, claiming the weapon put up a good fight, but just couldn't out-stat him. The digital queue pings, calling ticket number 116 to the front desk. Since the girl was still stressing over the news drop, the warrior tells her to focus on the queue and stop AFK-ing. To the Hunter Association desk, the NPC auto verifies the MC's gamertag. The worker drops the bad news before printing the license. They gotta clear a 100 million penalty for the busted item, noting the sponsor is on the hook if he defaults. The archaeologist absolutely loses her mind hearing that massive penalty fee. Trying to soften the blow, the desk guy hands over the lowest tier ID and suggests they should be happy, since there was no official rulebook for taxing the destruction of an indestructible item. Walking down the street, the girl reviews the receipts, clarifying the debt got nerfed to 90 million thanks to a noob-friendly discount. Chilling on a bench, the barbarian asks what the next quest marker is, wondering if that price tag is actually a big deal. Yurin promises it's a massive grind, pointing out that only elite hunters ever stack that kind of gold. She vents that nerds like her survive on sponsor drops, making it basically impossible for a level 1 to farm that much purely on raids. Unfazed, Wolfgang says it's basically GG already, since he can casually farm hundreds of mobs with 0 weapons equipped. Flashing a locked-in look, he demands the GPS for the nearest dungeon to fast travel there instantly. The hunter warns him that to play by the TOS, he's gotta join a guild, making him compare it to the ancient clans. Walking down the steps, she explains these orgs handle the loot drops and hand out the VIP passes to enter the red zones. The MC quickly figures out they're just middlemen taxing players. But the girl argues the legal buffs make the fee worth it. Right at the door of the first guild, they get instantly rejected by an NPC saying they don't accept cross-server players. On try number 2, a recruiter denies the party invite because the warrior didn't graduate from the official tutorial academy. The girl tries to debate, but the guy repeats that the org only cares about credit scores, which the barbarian has 0 of. Back outside, Wolfgang mutters that modern NPCs have way too much dialogue, while Yurin tries to explain that trust is meta for a high-risk job. Annoyed by the rejections, the MC asks why his charisma stat is so low here, and learns his current skin is way too flashy for this zone. The archaeologist suggests he shave the beard to boost his aesthetics, but instantly gives up realizing he's literally wearing monster drops in downtown. Super offended, the barbarian flexes that his beard is a top-tier cosmetic for his clan and he'd never unequip it. Gripping his gear, he warns it isn't just basic loot, because it dropped from the Wolf clan. Yurin cuts the lore, dumped to remind him pride doesn't pay the microtransactions, begging him to at least upgrade his drip. Out of nowhere, a suit NPC slides up asking if they're looking for a guild, which immediately triggers the warrior's aggro. Keeping a fake friendly smile, the suit tries to de-escalate and start a chill dialogue. He pitches his guild Ember Utopia, selling them on a toxic free zone focused entirely on hunter buffs. Knowing the lore, the girl whispers that this guild is famous for scamming its own roster. Inside the clan base, the agent admits he saw the MC getting rejected and offers a backdoor invite with fewer rules. Scanning the room, the barbarian notices they act like literal griefers, which totally explains the dead recruitment channel. The contract they hand over splits the loot like a scam, locks him in for 3 years of hard grinding, and only drops a tiny signing bonus. Super tilted, Yurin calls the deal a massive scam and tells her not to click accept. Ignoring the warning, Wolfgang slams the desk and demands they buff the bonus to 100 million to finalize the deal, leaving the girl absolutely shook. Flashing a confident smirk, he looks the suit in the eyes and clarifies that paying off the hunter's debt is a completely separate side quest. Crazy enough, the agent agrees to drop the massive amount of gold the MC asked for without putting up much of a fight. But he slaps on a hardcore condition, demanding the contract runs for 10 years with a 50% loot split. Back on the sidewalk, the girl rages at her teammate for accepting such a garbage deal instantly, asking if he even gets how bad he just griefed himself. Chill with his strat, the warrior says he knows the weight of the TOS, since he's watched entire servers crash over bad contracts. Tired of her partner's stubbornness, Yurin just can't process why he'd intentionally click yes on something so cursed. The Barbarian explains his main passive has always been carrying the players who buff him, and tanking the debt was the absolute least he could do. His main quest marker is still firmly locked on the boss that wiped his clan. Hyper-focused on the mission, Wolfgang remembers his oath to the Celestials, swearing that reviving his squad is worth any debuff. Actually touched by the speech, the hunter apologizes for flaming his gameplay without knowing his tragic backstory lore. She drops a legit smile, accepting that acting as the warrior's guide in the modern meta is now her own main quest. The wholesome moment gets cut by a guild rep saying his base building housing is ready to unlock. Later on, a Discord-style chat goes crazy discussing the insane event where the divine item got shattered. In the Hunter General chat, Yuren's guildmates are mind blown finding out the griefer was the ancient statue that respawned. Chilling in bed, the girl agrees this is a massive lore update for the server, despite the crazy financial jump scare she had. Finally relaxing after a grind of a day, she keeps texting her squad, ready to tank whatever crazy quests come next with the MC. Following the new Teos, the guild agent calls the Barbarian to show off the free housing they unlocked for him. Yuren watches her duo partner walk down the hall looking kinda sus about the whole thing. Super stressed about the warrior surviving the modern patch, the hunter wonders if he'll bug out playing solo, feeling bad she didn't buy him a health potion for the road. Arriving at the waypoint, the suit points to a door, telling him this is his spawn point from now on. The NPC details that he's cleared to grind dungeons Monday through Friday, making it crystal clear that at least 2 of those days are mandatory for the guild. Giving a single care about logging off, Wolfgang instantly asks if he can just grind all 5 days, which gets a massive green light from the agent. To track the quests, the staffer says the daily schedule will drop on the mobile device they handed him, telling him to just check his DMs and wait in the lobby. Wishing him a good AFK session, the rep logs out for the night, leaving the MC to finally enter his new base. The warrior gets tilted at how tiny and trash tier the room is. Sitting on the tiny bed, he compares the spot to a busted dwarf tavern, deciding he needs to locate the bathroom ASAP. Right then, the Barbarian notices the lights are off and complains that he needs to craft a torch just to see the map. Suddenly, he remembers the tech gadget the guild dropped, pulling it out of the box and realizing the rectangular screen acts like a glowstone. Pinching the tiny device with his giant fingers, he's totally lost on its actual stats, noting the hitbox is way smaller than his partner's. Grabbing the small bank card too, the MC wonders how this new patch is full of glitchy items that make zero sense to his old-school brain. Staring at his reflection in the glass with the neon city in the background, Wolfgang sighs heavily, realizing learning the meta is going to be a massive grind. The next morning, the raid leader checks to see if the whole party has spawned at the rally point. The other low levels stare at the giant's back, totally weirded out by a guy that huge rocking beast skins in the middle of the city map. The commander walks up to check if he's the new recruit, instantly barking that the big guy can't enter the red zone with that troll cosmetic. Trying to defuse the aggro, Yuren pops up, agreeing with the warning and promising not to block his run, but demanding her duo swears not to PvP any human players whatsoever. Out of patience for all these debuffs, he just asks why he has to nerf himself so hard around NPCs that trigger him. The archaeologist calmly drops the lore that the modern server is totally different from the beta days, and guild authority is the only firewall keeping regular folks safe from the demons. Plus, the role points out that the modern intel gathering tech is insanely faster and more OP than anything from the past. She makes it super clear that the current player base totally reports and bans random PvP violence. Hitting's weak spot, the rep brings up the demon the Barbarian swore to delete for his final payback quest. Staring him down, Yuren hopes the warrior realizes the stakes and agrees to play pacifist mode. Her main point is that if he racks up too much bounty and gets red named by humanity, it's going to be way harder to track his real target's IP. Still salty about the Barbarian's rude intro, the raid leader whines about the giant's toxic attitude. Regaining his chill, the commander warns they're heading to a grind dungeon, not a movie set, ordering him to equip a hazmat suit ASAP. The guy points at the massive blade in Wolfgang's hands and asks what kind of scrap metal that is, getting the blunt reply that it's his personal main weapon. With zero tolerance, the leader says weapons are totally useless for this run, telling him to drop the sword and go use a wash station before changing his dirty skin. Taking the quest objective literally, the warrior starts unequipping his armor right there in the street with zero shame. Panicking, the agent turns around shaking him, screams for him to stop the animation, calling the giant a total creep. Flexing his stats, the Barbarian just reminds him the tutorial said to wash first, demanding the GPS for the nearest river to speedrun the task. Right after the cringe moment, the whole squad is already on the dirt road driving to the instance dungeon. In the back seat, one of the noobs starts complaining about the long loading screen, but instantly gets flamed by the boss to shut up and be glad for the XP. The recruit keeps whining that the zone is ranked B tier, but their actual quest is just sweeping up slime drops off the floor. Explaining his saltiness, the kid says he really needs to farm gold to pay for his promotion test, making the rest of the party doubt his actual skill level. Focusing on the road, the driver warns they're lucky they have carry protection, telling them to milk the farm before material prices get nerfed. Tilted by the insane tax rates from the association, the worker complains again about the trash loot split, prompting the leader to tell him to rage, quit if he doesn't want to grind. The transport finally pulls up to the massive firewall blocking the dungeon entrance, while Wolfgang just chills in the back watching the cutscene. Outside the military base, an NPC greets the squad, praising them for surviving the long, fast travel. Surprised by the random VIP greeting, the leader asks why a high-tier admin is here, finding out the guy came to spectate the new recruit's first run. Barely looking at the rest of the party, the suit claims he's got major bugs to fix in the zone after the review. Walking straight up to the MC, the admin greets him super formally, but gets totally scared by the warrior's glitched-out outfit. Wearing a super tight, short work uniform, Wolfgang complains he was forced to equip this weird cosmetic, admitting at least it doesn't debuff his arm mobility. The admin totally rejects the excuse, warning that in a toxic slime map, he needs a full biohazard gear set like the rest of the squad. Terrified of getting a strike on his account, the party leader panics and tries to explain the recruit's character model is too big and there was no gear his size in the shop. Ignoring the drama, the barbarian grabs a basic face mask and claims the bug is fixed, reminding them his only quest is looting dead drops. Accepting it just to save time, the suit tells them to fetch his proper skin later, because he has to walk to check another farming zone. Taking the chance, the squad leader checks if the mask alone is enough buff to clear the tutorial floor. The admin runs the numbers and confirms the first area only has 0 aggro loot, but warns that floor 2 is a whole different ballgame with active mobs. With that, he orders the barbarian to speedrun the shallow floor and pull out, hard locking any attempt to go deeper without the full armor set. The party finally starts walking through the damp rock tunnels, listening to the leader repeat the boring fetch quest rules of collecting gooey loot. In the dark zone, the group moves up holding vacuum gear while the boss spams warnings about the poison area of effect gas in the air. Shadowing the squad, Wolfgang scans the room and asks if there's even enough drop right here to make the grind worth it. Right after, he checks out the team's inventory and asks how many storage slots they brought. A worker mentions the special glass bottles are crazy heavy, asking if the new guy has the stamina to tank it. While the guy explains each empty container weighs almost 10 kilos, the warrior stacks dozens of them on his back tied with a rope, carrying them like they have 0 weight. Hyped by the insane strength stat, the coworker asks if he's ever PvP'd slimes before, getting the flex that they're such trash mobs the MC doesn't even save them in his RAM. The kid explains they deal with these low-level mobs every day, until Wolfgang quickly spots some green puddles down the hall. The partner shines his flashlight on a melted drop and drops a hardcore warning, explaining that even dead slimes have a poison aura and should never be touched without gloves. Totally ignoring the red flags, the barbarian crouches and jams his bare hand straight into the goo, sending the worker into full panic mode, calling him a troll. Freaking out, the guy demands to inspect the warrior's hand, 100% sure his HP is draining from the acid damage. To the guy's absolute shock, the MC's hand is perfectly fine with 0 damage taken. The partner's eyes bug out behind his thick visor, completely unable to process how someone just tanked a lethal debuff. Stuttering hard, the guy tries to act like the boss again and tells him to chill, while Wolfgang just lifts the goo off the rock, juggling it in the air. Looking totally unfazed, the warrior guarantees no trash tier poison is going to pierce his defense stats. Yanking the straps, the barbarian unequips the mask, complaining that wearing the rubber gear was just a useless way to nerf his stamina. The coworker gets scared again, asking if his breathing is fine in the toxic zone, and hears the big guy say it's all good and they need to speedrun for max profit. Further back, the greedy noob keeps flaming the leader, totally tunneled on farming enough gold for his promotion token. The MC's busted audio, Perception picks up the chat from miles away, and he barks at the squad to stop whining, leaving the kid shook by his insane radar. After walking for a while, the squad finally hits the deepest, empty part of floor 1, surrounded by empty storage slots. The worker complains about the bad RNG, saying they should have 2 full bottles by now, and the risk of going negative on gold is huge. Skipping the boring wait, the barbarian votes they just rush straight to the next level, but the coworker shakes in fear and hits decline, saying it's a restricted zone for low levels. Staring down the dark stairs like an absolute boss, Wolfgang announces he's soloing the rest of the quest, completely ignoring the desperate pings telling him to fall back. The teammate swallows hard, warning that pushing the zone is absolute suicide. Super stressed about the MC having zero armor equipped, the kid asks if this reckless strat actually has a chance. Walking down the creepy hallway, the worker admits his anxiety gauge is maxing out. Standing at the long staircase, the guy points at the weird audio glitches echoing from the bottom, while the barbarian's radar instantly locks onto a boss demon's aura. Miles away at the hunter base, Yurin tries to call her duo, but gets a no-signal error. Staring at her screen, the girl thinks it's super sus that the brand new device is already bugged. Nearby, an NPC tells his boss that the out-of-stock giant armor sets are causing a massive headache right now. The suit complains about the 1-week crafting timer for the gear, advising the squad to only farm the spawn area. Hearing this, the boss complains he needs to get back to the farming zone ASAP, crying about his personal bank account. The second she hears this, the archaeologist intercepts the manager, panicking and demanding to know if the MC got sent to that red zone. Demanding patch notes, she aggressively asks why the Warriors' official comms are completely offline. Super tilted by the guild's trash management, Yurin commands the guy to travel her to the danger zone right now. Back in the deep tunnels of Floor 2, the map is covered in acid area of effect traps. The partner freaks out when he spots a fully spawned mob, screaming that the live ones have lethal poison stats. Completely ignoring the tutorial pop-up, Wolfgang grabs a chunk of the glowing slime bare-handed, confirming the mob is live. The barbarian yeets the loot into the heavy flask, noticing that going deeper massively buffs their farming speed. Capping the bottle carefully, the coworker cheers that they've already farmed enough to pay his exam fee. Hyped with the speedrun, the kid suggests they hit the extract point and secure the bag. Their radar catches a hidden trapdoor in the floor, revealing a secret staircase that drops straight into the abyss. Absolutely terrified, the worker peeks over the edge and prays to the dev MC didn't just jump down to floor 3. The sketchy tunnel has massive hazard signs, stressing the kid out since they absolutely don't have the keycard for this area. Red warning holograms block the way, stating that entering the zone is an instant game over. Shaking as he goes down the stairs, the partner spams the warrior's name, begging him to leave the restricted map. Hitting the main boss room, the guy is mind blown to find a colossal glass cylinder jailing the slime raid boss. Standing in front of the massive glass, the barbarian checks out the tech while the coworker explains it's a mana drainer. The worker spots a small vent attached to the base, figuring out that's the spawn tube for the smaller mobs. Doing the math, he realizes the ads naturally crawl up to the surface floors right after they spawn. Shook by the lore drop, the kid realizes the Mega Corp modded the dungeon into an infinite loot farm. Suddenly, the wind physics in the damp room glitch out, grabbing both players' attention. A massive area of effect rain of toxic sludge drops from the ceiling, jump scaring the worker who tries to process the event. Pointing up, Wolfgang tells his partner to check out the massive pipe on the roof. Literal trash bags and junk drop out of the chute, splashing right into the slime pool around the main tank. The warrior watches the cutscene with disgust, asking if the humans are actually feeding the boss on purpose. The coworker confirms the strat, noticing the mob is eating the garbage dumped straight from the surface map. The trash keeps raining down, exposing the devious exploit the guild uses to delete the city's garbage. Tilted, the worker realizes the admins are double-dipping profits by using the raid boss as a giant Roomba. Right then a system window flashes for the MC Auto, equipping his divine translation perk. Noticing the giant spacing out, the kid nervously asks if his audio is glitching again. But a horrific roar shakes the room, forcing the worker to snap his camera around. Panicking, he points at the tunnels, warning that all the mobs are rushing back to defend the spawn point. A massive green wave of mobs charges at the two intruders at max speed. One of the mobs leaps straight for the unarmored kid's face. Cracked reaction time, the barbarian punches the enemy mid-air before it can even connect. The critical hit deletes the mob instantly, splashing acid pixels everywhere. Totally stunned, locked by the save, the coworker stutters his teammate's name. Inside the holding tank, an exhausted, human-like face renders in the middle of the giant slime. The boss's stressed voice echoes in the MC's head, begging him to finally pull the plug on this infinite torture loop. Eye contact with the beast, the warrior quickly realizes this NPC has actual sentience and can chat. The spam of please keeps ringing, asking for mercy to just hit the game over screen. Standing in the acid water, Wolfgang keeps a total poker face during the sad monologue. Bartering straight up, the barbarian promises to do the quest, demanding the exact coordinates of the Devil House boss as payment. The entity cries out, admitting it has zero data on that IP address. Keep MC a chill, the accepts the nerfed mob's honest answer. The boss thrashes inside its glass jail, fighting its own massive hitbox. The aggro spikes as the tiny ads climb the MC's legs, melting his leg armor completely. Visibly annoyed by the spam, Wolfgang declares his patience meter has hit 0. The coworker is totally lost by the mood swing, trying to figure out if the raid boss literally asked to get unalived. Fulfilling the quest, the barbarian walks up to the tank, ready to drop his ultimate. Shaking with fear, the worker warns that griefing the guild server is pure madness, while the warrior just tests the glass durability. The kid desperately begs him to cancel the animation and pretend they never saw this, but the big guy just mutes him. Grabbing the MC's arm, the partner tries to physically body block him. The guy T-poses in front of the tank screaming about the massive ban wave they'll get for defying the admins. With a cold try, hard glare, Wolfgang commands the noob to move out of his way immediately. The worker keeps crying about their bank accounts, but the cylinder starts glowing bright red behind him. The glass firewall can't tank the internal pressure and starts spider webbing across the screen. The mobs go into an enraged frenzy, bugging out and attacking everything. Seeing the imminent team wipe explosion, the warrior tells his partner to pop his sprint skill and extract ASAP. The magic barrier completely shatters, making the worker scream, asking what the heck he is doing at the giant. In the middle of the chaos, the barbarian stays totally chill, telling the kid he doesn't need a healer. Crying in panic, the kid dashes up the dark stairs, screaming at the MC to survive this raid no matter what. Solo in the wrecked room, Wolfgang plants his feet and tells the freed boss it's time to trigger its attack phase. A massive area, effect wave of slime and debris crashes down on the MC in a brutal heavy hit. Outside the quarantine zone, the server skybox turns to sunset, signaling the end of the farming shift. The Hunter Association van drifts to a stop, dropping Urine and the guild manager at the spooky location. Hopping out, they interrogate the support NPCs about the miners, getting the awful news that both players are still missing in action in the dungeon. Outside the zone, the manager is still confused, asking if the noobs are still stuck inside the instance. Suddenly, a massive earthquake screen shakes the whole map, scaring the suit. Yaren is absolutely horrified by the rumble, trying to process what event just triggered. The NPC thinks it's just a random environment effect, but a crew member asks if he's actually sure about that. Leaning on the dirt near the van, the man nods nervously, noticing the screen shake is finally ending. Stressed about his low-level workers, he decides to message the higher-ups and run a solo scan inside the base. The manager asks what the archaeologist is doing, and she instantly requests a spare mask so she can tag along. Meanwhile, in the underground chat, the entity asks if the warrior is really going to delete it, but Wolfgang thinks it's trash for a mob to die in a cage, and suggests it checks out the surface graphics first. The giant boss clicks accept on the invite and starts squeezing out of the broken trap. Morphing into a humanoid shape in the goo, the Slime King announces it's gonna link its soul to the MC's account as a pet, leaving the barbarian weirded out. With a hyper-fast animation, a massive green tentacle shoots straight up. The smash hits the ceiling with insane critical damage. On the surface, a massive explosion deletes the base entrance, completely scaring Yaren and the manager. On the basement stairs, the escaping worker is carrying the heavy loot drops and feels the walls vibrating hard. The ceiling starts caving in around the kid, making him realize the final boss has fully broken its leash. Sprinting for his life through the stone tunnels, the coworker dodges falling hitboxes. Out of stamina and panicking, he notices the red zone is catching up to him fast. Looking backward, the kid curses in pure terror, seeing the death wall right on his heels. A brutal tidal wave of acid and debris wipes out the tunnel walls like they're nothing. Right behind him, Wolfgang is speed dashing through the collapsing map. The worker finally spots the exit light at the end of the corridor. A huge wave of relief hits the kid's face, thinking he actually survived the wipe mechanic. But the barbarian literally scares him and grabs the back of his shirt. Totally shook, the coworker thinks he was just used as a decoy to pull aggro. With zero effort, the MC lifts the worker and keeps full, sprinting with the dude under his arm like a football. Popping his broken strength stat, Wolfgang charges up an insane leap. The warrior yeets his teammate violently toward the exit door. The worker gets launched into the skybox and ragdolls onto the grass outside the ruined base. Keeping his deadpan look, the MC braces for the incoming impact. A colossal nuke of slime and rubble explodes out of the dungeon, ripping up the surface map. The boss's massive character model launches into the sky against the sunset. Yaren and the suit watch in pure horror as the mob splashes all over the zone. Sprawled on the ground, the coworker looks up, absolutely mesmerized and terrified by the cutscene. The giant boss finally breaks free completely, chilling on top of the ruined military base. The worker walks up to Wolfgang and asks why they even came up top if the whole point was to beat the boss. Holding the mob, the hero confirms the strat, but explains he made a deal to let the boss catch some sunlight before its HP hits 0. The kid is speechless, totally mind blown by the giant's random act of mercy. Then, the warrior tosses a glowing orb item straight at the coworker, who catches it clumsily. The Slime King's voice overdrops the lore that this is his core, and he'll hit the game over screen if it gets smashed. The boss declares a chunk of his experience points will transfer to whoever breaks the orb, leaving the worker shook by the free carry. The worker asks why the barbarian would pass on such a legendary loot drop and hand it to him. Wolfgang replies calmly that he doesn't need the stat boost, telling him to take it as a tip, since barbarians always carry the supports who buff them. Completely stunned by the Jigachid move, the kid just stares at the warrior in silence. Staring at the sunset graphics, the mob says thanks for the sick view before its core starts dissolving in the worker's hands. From a distance, Yeren screams in relief, sprinting toward her duo, while he casually asks if she came to extract him. The coworker walks away carrying the heavy, glowing loot bottles. The manager is on the phone having a meltdown, demanding max cargo trucks to haul all this epic loot. Yeren interrupts to ask for permission to log Wolfgang out, and the guy instantly clicks yes, noting the server's economy is going to take ages to calculate this. Shoving the giant warrior into the van, the hunter tells him to get in ASAP, while he complains about the rushing. Inside the ride, the girl asks if he was the griefer who crashed the map, getting a sarcastic, "knew that she doesn't buy for a second." The archaeologist tells the driver to step on it, while her partner defends himself, saying he just completed his quest log. She switches topics, dropping the tea that a VP NPC has been waiting all day to meet him. The MC's face goes totally serious, getting hyped that she finally pulled Devil House's IP address. The van speeds away from the military zone as the night skybox loads in. A bit later, the other miners hop in the car and ask if the manager is going to log off soon, but he complains about the delayed loot deposit. Explains a bunch of cargo trucks spawned in, but the animation is too slow, so he decided to leave early. Talking to his boss on the phone, the manager corrects a typo, shook as he says the drop wasn't 150 kilos, but literal tons. In a fancy high-rise lobby, the guild leader screams at her employee, calling it fake news that they pulled that much slime in one run. Hang Mayan aggressively asks if he really thought she'd just wire him 1,400,000,000 gold that easily. Super triggered by the massive payout for a single noob, she orders the agent to use his brain and investigate the dungeon glitch. Pressured by the boss's aggro, the manager screams accepting the orders, swearing to clip into the dungeon right now to check the logs. Hanging up, he sighs in defeat, complaining about the boss's toxic ego, while his partner asks what the bug is. The suit whines that the guild is blocking the transaction and ordered him to hunt for exploits in the basement. Arriving at the zone, the guy complains that grinding overtime is depressing, telling the driver to idle the car while he scans the map. Miles away, water blasts out of a shiny metal shower head in a modern bathroom. Enjoying the AFK healing buff, Wolfgang is mind blown by the tech that makes water spawn inside a house. He asks the hunter waiting in the hall if she knows the dev code for this, guessing they hoard rainwater on the roof. Through the door, Yeren tells him to speedrun the shower, noting they haven't tracked the demon yet, but a high-tier lore NPC wants to meet him. Skipping the filler, the MC agrees to the cutscene and turns off the valve. The archaeologist leaves a fresh cosmetic set folded up for her duo to equip. The barbarian walks out wearing the gear that's way too small for his giant hitbox, asking if this NPC is actually a big deal for her. The hunter promises to buy skins with the right hitbox tomorrow, along with proper boots, getting a thumbs up from the MC. His hunger bar flashing, he asks if there's any food drops in the building, but Yeren tells him to hold his horses until they finish the intro dialogue. The girl opens the office door, announcing Wolfgang's spawn to Dar Choi. The history nerd stands up to greet the warrior, who shakes the veteran's hand and drops his Wolf Clan title. Staring at the nerd, the barbarian mentions he heard the guy is the guild master of this archaeology stuff, asking where this clan's base is. Yeren patiently corrects him that archaeology isn't a clan, but a nerd skill tree focused on decoding old loot. Holding the warrior's hand, the doc skips the formalities and invites everyone to eat, right as the hunter's stomach makes a loud ping. Seconds later, multiple boxes of fried chicken are dropped on the office desk for the feast. The old man offers the buff food and a soda, telling them to chew slowly because he can just order more if the HP isn't maxed out. Chugging a massive gulp of the potion, Wolfgang asks what the main quest for this meeting is. The researcher confirms he has some Q&A for the MC, asking if he's cool with it, and gets the green light to spam his questions. Analyzing the audio, the doc notices the guest's voice lines sound perfectly modern, asking how he downloaded the current language pack so fast if he just unfroze. The MC drops the lore that he got buffed by the Sky Bosses, which unlocked a bunch of broken passives, including auto-translate for any server language. Totally shook, the guy tries to process what these angels are, asking if it's the gamer tag of some constellation. Confused by the term, the barbarian Uno reverses the question to find out what a constellation is, while Yeren whispers, reminding him of the VIPs he met at the tutorial test. Wolfgang's memory retrieves the clip of that Spartan cosplayer, named Leonidas. Right after, he remembers the giant spirit projection that claimed to be his clan's ancestor. Connecting the dots, the MC realizes these low-tier entities are called constellations, totally shocking the doc by trash talking the divine via peace. Not caring about the shock value, the warrior states as a fact that the Celestials are on a completely different power scale than these mid-tier ghosts, possessing way more than enough DPS to clap the demons. Recalling a time they literally visited his clan looking for a carry. A bit later, the nerd decides to summarize the crazy lore dump he just heard in the office. He recaps that back in the day, the Celestials and monsters were having a massive turf war, dragging the barbarian clans into the crossfire because the sky bosses begged for help. With a heavy vibe, the hunter adds that the barbarian warriors got wiped out, triggering the last surviving player to solo invade the enemy base looking for revenge. Choi keeps reading the patch notes, remembering the MC deleted all the mobs until he reached the final boss, known as Devil House. Clenching his fist in pure rage, the barbarian listens to the nerd finish the story that was the exact frame he got hit by the debuff and turned to stone. Yeren squeezes the warrior's arm to comfort him, promising they'll pull the target's IP. The MC looks away, keeping a dark, edgy look as he watches his own traumatic flashbacks. The host apologizes for bringing up the dark lore, but Wolfgang corrects him, saying it's a replay he forces himself to watch so he never forgets. With that, the doc hesitates for a second before asking the VIP for a new side quest. Keeping his cool, the barbarian just tells the NPC to drop the dialogue prompt. Nervous about the request, the nerd explains he needs to verify the warrior's legit status, since he was originally cataloged as a literal prop. Finding it hilarious, the MC sarcastically asks if his character model actually looks like a piece of loot. Then, the researcher gets up from his chair to set up the verification event. Holding a glowing statue, the doc explains it's a gadget crafted by his sponsored constellation, an ancient warrior monk who led an epic battle back in the day. He asks permission to quick summon his VIP sponsor just to run a scan, knowing the pop-up might annoy the giant. The barbarian keeps staring at the guy with zero reaction to the summon request. Panicking, Yeren begs her duo for a carry, warning that her whole thesis to get him officially verified depends 100% on this tiny scan. The warrior just sighs and drops the girl's username, showing he's getting slightly tilted by all the red tape. She claps her hands, promising to sweat super hard to help him find his rival. Hearing the MC state he never actually clicked decline on the prompt. Super hyped by the green light, the archaeologist cheers and tells the doc to speedrun it, making the nerd feel insanely honored by the chance. The Buddhist statue reacts instantly, glowing like crazy in the researcher's hand. A massive spirit projection of a monk spawns in the room, while the system pings that the entity recognizes the MC and is fanboying over the guy who ended the Chaos era. Totally blown by the server message, the nerd repeats the line about ending the Dark Age. The magic entity bows down, showing massive respect to the player who beat the legendary campaign. Rejecting the VIP's emote, Wolfgang says he doesn't need the glazing, pointing out that the raid final was only a partial win for his squad. As soon as the ghost despawns, Dr. Choi breathes heavy, feeling his mana bar hit 0. He apologizes for abruptly canceling the summon, admitting his mana is completely drained. Happy with the scan, the nerd thanks him for his time and confirms, totally starstruck, that the barbarian is a legit walking legend from the legacy server. Miles away, the giant underground boss room looks like a total grief zone after the raid boss escaped. A worker in a hazmat suit stares at the shattered glass cage, totally glitched out and terrified by the map destruction. The worker freaks out, trying to read the logs to figure out what the heck caused the firewall to crash like that. In a fancy penthouse office, CEO Kang Mayan is screaming on the phone, demanding to know how the server's biggest boss despawned from the tank. Hearing that the tubes were smashed from the inside, she aggressively asks if the squad didn't aggro any mobs creeping around floor 3. The boss totally loses her chill and threatens the employee, reminding him that not even a high-tier pro could break that reinforced glass solo. She pressures the NPC to find the griefer, getting the confirmation that only 2 noob hunters entered the lobby that morning, one of them being a total level 1. The captain processes the insane data that this suspect's hunter ID was minted less than 24 hours ago. Flashing a toxic glare, Mayan figures this random player is the root of the whole glitch, ordering them to dox every single pixel of his profile. Asked by the phone what her next play is, she crosses her legs with pure villain energy. The exec drops her master plan to hit the rival guild with a massive lawsuit, leak the griefer's gamer tag to the forums, and lock in irrefutable screenshots against them. Screaming her lungs out, she denies the $1 million invoice for the farmed loot, ordering the worker to kick the rival guild member without dropping a single coin. Meanwhile, in a crowded mall, Yeren and Wolfgang are resting on a bench, where the warrior pings his partner with a question. He holds up the dark little bank card and asks why he can't use this weird plastic drop to voice chat with people far away. The girl stutters in pure disbelief, realizing the giant spent the whole day thinking the credit card was a modern smartphone. She asks if the guild didn't drop anything else, hearing the MC say they gave him a much bigger gadget, but he stashed it in his base because it took up too much inventory space. Yurin takes a deep breath, realizing the barbarian swapped the item descriptions, finally understanding why her pings were left on read. The warrior asks how he was supposed to know the meta if no NPC bothered to run a tutorial on how the gear works. Laughing awkwardly, the hunter decides to skip the topic, promising to run a step-by-step guide after they finish buying his new skins. Right then, a shop NPC walks up carrying a bag and apologizes for the lag in customer service. The worker hesitantly explains this is the max level shoe size in their inventory, revealing an absolutely massive number. Silent, the MC just stares at the boots with his naturally scary resting face, clearly not used to the current cosmetic meta. In another aisle of the mall, two casual-looking dudes are sniping the duo from a distance using a phone camera. Near the fitting rooms, the girl checks out the new winter drops and approves the fit, while the warrior complains he isn't sure if he equipped everything right. Wolfgang walks out of the booth rocking a full tailored suit, getting spammed with wins from his partner for the clean new drip. The archaeologist fixes his coat collar and tells him to unequip the hat, but the barbarian whines that the skin makes him look like a total boomer. Yurin swears this is exactly how top-tier players dress in this patch, convincing the MC to rock the skin to avoid drawing aggro from casuals. Walking through the wide halls, he sighs, complaining that this human era is a massive stamina drain, waiting while his partner says she needs to hit the restroom waypoint. Seeing the perfect opening with the target solo, the stream snipers decide to rush him, sensing up to combo him with a frontal assault. Standing outside the bathrooms, the big guy is confused by the signs, not getting why there are two separate portals in the same hallway. Suddenly, a masked assassin Speed dashes from behind, popping a max agility skill. The griefer jumps at Wolfgang and spams a fast attack with a dagger glowing with intense green poison aura. Holding the shopping bags, the warrior gets sneak attacked from behind by a masked assassin closing in super fast with a toxic green blade. From the front, another attacker pops out with his hand covered in flames, charging up a lethal ultimate by focusing his mana into a brutal fire punch. Showing zero panic, the barbarian auto reacts by putting his left arm out, his insane reaction speed completely outplaying the griefer's combo. With zero difficulty, the warrior catches the fire guy's face, instantly canceling his ultimate, while the other masked dude is already face planted on the floor before his brain can even render it. Looking down at the clapped noobs, Wolfgang figures these two cowards spent the whole day sniping him, and with a scary voice, demands to know which boss sent them. Struggling to break free, the guy trapped by his head barely manages to ask if the giant is in a specific famous guild, telling him to stop resisting and come with them peacefully. Triggered by the audacity, the MC squeezes the dude's face with insane pressure, making the merc scream in agony under the crushing grip, finding zero exploits to escape. Scrambling to his feet in panic, the dagger rogue curses, mind blown by the enemy's busted strength, yelling at his pinned teammate to stop feeding and fight back. Ignoring the duo's panic, the barbarian turns his head, reminding them he asked the first question, wanting to confirm if the Sunction Guild was the admin behind this trash tier gank. Nearby, Yurin is camping the bathroom door looking bored, sighing about how high maintenance her duo is and praying he downloads the modern social patch soon. The nerd guesses the giant has zero clue how to use a public restroom, annoyed she can't follow him in to run a tutorial on basic plumbing. Back at the PvP zone, Wolfgang drops the enemy on the floor like trash, commanding the attacker to run back and tell his boss they failed the quest. Dropping a hardcore warning, the barbarian swears he'll permanently ban their entire guild from the server if they ever troll him again, sending the goons limping away cursing, totally terrified by the threat. After the zone goes back to a safe area, the warrior picks up the dropped loot bags and walks chill mode back to his partner, who's still leaning on the wall waiting. Rolling up to the girl, she suggests grabbing a quick HP item before fast traveling to the office, promising to run a tutorial on the phone and credit card during the walk, which the MC happily accepts. Walking side by side to the exit, the girl asks if he has a craving for any specific consumable, hyping that the archaeology VIP is covering the tab. Right then, her phone vibrates with a major server alert, dropping the news that the Sunction Guild is demanding 6 billion in damages for the wiped raid boss. On another map, a suit sips a cold potion in a VIP room while listening to a toxic damage report, where his sidekick leaks the system logs of the underground shield crash. Tilted, the worker explains the rival guild cooked up this fake penalty just to dodge paying for yesterday's loot drop, while the boss calls the scam total nonsense. Raging with a headache, the exec asks if yesterday's mining squad was really just level 1s, and the intern instantly swears he background checked their profiles himself. The boss brags he's no casual in the Hunter Underground, flexing his old lore as a pro PvP player and swearing he knows all the dirty exploits of the mega guilds. Trying to shed light on the bug, the sidekick suggests pulling up a video during the chat, explaining the rival guild sent the clip as proof of the report. The monitor clearly plays the recording from the mall hallway, showing the exact frame Wolfgang claps the two pro assassins with zero effort. Pointing at the hooded rogue in the clip, the sidekick tags him as a notorious griefer, warning that the dude smurfs his stats and actually has high-tier DPS. Next, he points at the guy getting face-palmed, noting he's a newly promoted fighter, and is totally shook seeing them both get bodied by a complete level 1. Connecting the lore, the manager realizes the official ticket about the dungeon was just bait to trigger a guild war, since the rivals want to dox the sponsor of the giant player in the video. Furious at the rivals' troll move, the kid punches the desk and stands up tilted, whining that the agency is getting griefed by people who didn't even pay their first invoice. Telling the intern to chill, the boss folds his arms and says the lack of an official party invite with the MC clears them of any bans, deciding to just sue the rival guild to force the transaction. Passing the billing quest to the kid, the leader says he needs to go AFK for a priority mission, fixing his skin and mentioning a meet up with a cracked new recruit. Moments later, the suit rushes into a yellow taxi on the street, sliding into the back seat and telling the driver to speedrun to the high-tier Cheongdam zone. During the loading screen, the suit complains about the rival guild's toxic strats, sighing that it's a massive grind to save up enough gold for a personal mount. Suddenly, the exec's brain spots a massive detail in the video he completely missed, making his eyes bug out and freezing his thoughts, needing a sec to process. Rewatching the clip in his head, he zooms in on the frame where Wolfgang parried the fire punch, mind blown that the barbarian tanked a VIP entity's attack without showing any visible celestial buff. The giant warrior's overpowered hitbox takes over the greedy manager's brain, who, convinced he just found an infinite money glitch, cooks up a risky strat to check the barbarian personally. The goal of this secret scan is to measure the unknown player's actual power level, since the manager needs to know if he pulled the most cracked prodigy ever or just a noob with crazy RNG. A few days later, the server jumps to the crowded downtown map, where Wolfgang calmly uses the crosswalk, drawing stairs because he's carrying a massive wrapped-up sword. Staring at the road textures, the MC thinks the pedestrian pathing system in this patch is interesting, wondering if the server admin isn't dropping too many rules on the casuals. Looking at the massive crowd, the barbarian tries to use the minimap coordinates his boss gave him earlier, admitting he's a bit lost in the skyscraper maze even though the UI seemed simple. The navigation rage is short-lived, as a familiar voice cuts through the traffic audio. It's Urine waving like crazy from the other sidewalk, super relieved to find her duo alive. Walking up to the hunter, he swears the raid leader's waypoint worked fine, at which point the girl checks his inventory for the bags and points to the archaeology base where the nerd is waiting. Opening the door to the chill lobby, the girl announces the party has arrived, getting greeted by the researcher with a massive smile, hyped that they hit the waypoint right on time. Super polite, the doc apologizes for making them fast, travel to this zone, and instantly suggests they switch maps, taking an elevator straight down to the vault. Walking down the hall, the veteran nerd completely drops his serious NPC act and starts fanboying over the barbarian's weapon, tilting the giant so hard he whispers to the girl asking what's wrong with the boomer. Smiling awkwardly, Urine blames the researcher's class obsession, arguing it would be way more suspicious if a history main ignored a legit legacy item right in front of him. Totally mesmerized, the nerd checks out the old gear the hunter is holding and confirms it's from a mythic wolf drop, while Wolfgang, looking completely done, just listens to him preach about protecting the rare loot. The squad finally passes the firewall of the guild's massive storage, a dim room packed with shelves of locked containers and recovered rare drops. Walking through, the doc introduces the VIP guest to the new interns, making one of the noobs drop his jaw when he instantly recognizes the MC from the dungeon raid. Scanning the giant warrior from a few feet away, the kid gets a debuff of pure fear from his scary aura, silently agreeing that the live player is infinitely more terrifying than the old stone statue. Trying to act professional, the kid politely offers a handshake to the legacy MC, introducing himself as a high-ranked data miner and admitting this whole cutscene feels surreal. Skipping the extra dialogue, Wolfgang shakes his hand with his usual crazy grip and, keeping a deadpan face and flat voice, drops his full gamertag to end the intro. A bit behind him, another support member walks up flashing a polite smile, bowing respectfully to the barbarian and saying he plays support for hardcore raids. Switching targets, the kid gives a hyped wave when he notices Yeren in the lobby, getting a warm smile back that proves they've been on each other's friends list for a while. During the intros, the other guy gets totally distracted by the weapon strapped to the warrior's back, getting close to the big sword to see if that mythic metal also got petrified. Full of clan pride, the barbarian explains the weapon is a legacy cosmetic for the region's shot callers, prompting the doc to clap loudly to skip the dialogue and focus the party on the main quest. Walking again, the doc declares their timing was perfect, admitting the research squad got hard, stuck trying to decode some puzzle items and asking them to follow. Walking past the heavy security screens, the barbarian whispers to ask if this guild's members are always this extra, while Yeren just laughs softly and tells him to tank the intern's hype. The walk ends at a super bright display case, showing off a massive silver hammer, which the researcher points at with crazy hype, waiting for the historic MC to scan it. The doc straight up asks if the VIP recognizes the weapon's stats, saying the loot dropped in the same cave he was rescued from, but no modern tech could data mine its magic. Touching the thick glass, the warrior's eyes glaze over with ancient flashbacks, confessing with a heavy, blunt voice that this blessed gear belonged to Jonas, an old clan mate. A heavy debuff of sadness hits the barbarian's heart as the nerds listen to the legit lore of the relic, hearing him describe the dead player as a Jigachad who fought for the guildmaster title. And, most of all, was his best bro. Tracing the cold glass, the MC keeps narrating his friend's bad ending, clarifying his duo got wiped out bravely on the front line of the brutal server war against the infernal mobs. The grief in the barbarian's voice quickly turns into a silent, toxic rage as he presses his finger to the glass, saying that after his bro logged off for good, he mained the heavy hammer himself. The lab map fades from the hero's UI, replaced by a dark flashback of him surrounded by deleted mob hitboxes. Remembering the edgy days, he spammed the hammer to wipe out endless enemies in the war. Hearing the brutal lore, Yeren looks at the floor, absorbing the legit trauma of the past, sighing with empathy as she gets the massive kill count hidden behind the shiny silver item. Canceling the bad memory cutscene, Wolfgang looks up with absolute try-hard resolve, swearing on his account that he won't rest until he tracks and unalives the mob that griefed Jonas. Stressed by the warrior's emotional debuff, the girl grabs his left hand with a soft but firm grip, gently begging him to drop the toxic mindset of trying to solo the server's problems. The sudden touch on his rough skin jump scares the barbarian, making him turn his body after seeing his firewall bypassed, staring at his duo as he processes human affection he was never used to. Yeren flashes a warm smile, promising the patch notes changed and he's got a legit squad now, swearing to stay in his party forever so they can up the hard raids. The impact of the girl's speech shatters the warrior's edgy act, making him say thanks for the legit carry, while the girl gets hyped, promising to spam all the nerds' contacts to dox the monster's exact IP. Watching the scene, the doc looks down feeling super guilty, begging pardon for triggering the MC's bad memories, but the giant clears the aggro instantly, showing massive thanks for keeping his bro's weapon at 100% durability. The barbarian hopes the sad lore drop helped stick their research, and the doc confirms with relief that the data was clutch, proving 100% that the puzzle item is linked to the Wolf clan. Right near the end of the tour, a sudden aggro ping changes the hero's chill face, his eyes bug out, and he snaps backward, barking at everyone to freeze their character models. Ignoring all the server rules, the barbarian jams his hand into the open display case and grabs another magic item by the hilt, perfectly scanning all the stats of the glowing weapon he just equipped. The busted energy stored in the ancient loot pulses hard as it syncs with the true soul of its old user, with Wolfgang's massive hand gripping it, while blue lightning effects spam all over his arm. Terrified by the troll move, the nerds scream trying to crowd control the barbarian instantly, panicking that equipping the unverified item from the pedestal will instantly trigger the vault's lethal anti-cheat system. Sweating bullets, the researcher asks why the MC just pulled that random aggro, completely shook by the animation playing out.
Yeah.
A massive burst of blue aura explodes from the relic the exact frame the warrior touches it. The doc screams at max volume, warning that the mystic VIP soul is literally spawning right in front of them. Right then, the warrior's RAM gets hijacked by hardcore flashbacks of ancient PvP battles. The old memory shows the barbarian marching alongside a massive wolf mount in the PvP zones. In the middle of the tragic cutscene, the scary hitbox of the monster that deleted his favorite things renders in. The MC's hand clenches brutally, leaking an edgy, dark aura packed with max-level salt. Consumed by rage after pinging the energy, he locks his eyes and drops the username of his absolute final boss. Back in the lab map, a raw chunk of the projectile is carefully vaulted inside a sealed glass jar. Scanning the screen data, Yeren asks the doc if the black texture on the loot is the warrior's HP drop. Girl swears the leftover pixels of that dark energy are 100% from that trash devil house. The hunter sighs heavily on the desk, warning the squad would be facing a game over screen if the protected crystal had fully shattered. The doc looks down, taking the L for the glitch, but the girl tries to chill him out, pointing out they at least leveled up their research. She admits she already thought it was suspicious that the giant hammer was unequipable, but says she never predicted the projectile shard would trigger the same animation. Looking at her lab mates, Yeren acts salty about the bug, noting the quest would be way easier if they had just hired a legit demon hunting pro. The girl explains that both auras, holy and dark, drain mana, making it insanely hard for casuals to untangle them. The barbarian calmly drops in, actually saying dark mobs leak a totally different aura that his radar tracks easily. Backing the MC up, the doc complains about the guild's trash RNG for not dropping the support they asked for earlier. Then, the girl turns her camera to the researcher, double-checking her logic to see if her new strat is viable. Yeren's brain runs at max clock speed, super intrigued by the random dialogue about that exact hunter class. She snaps her focus straight to the warrior, asking if he's down to equip the verified demon hunter title. Confused by the prompt, the doc asks why the girl is suggesting a random class change without warning. The kid remembers the TOS they signed days ago, recalling the promise to track the boss's IP as payment for visiting the lab. She argues that by grinding to a high rank, the warrior would unlock admin privileges to browse databases infinitely bigger than what normal nerds get. The girl hypes that this elite squad has clearance to data mine almost all the encrypted files on the mobs. Even though it's a rare build, Yeren swears the MC would steamroll the exam thanks to his busted physical stats and cracked tracking radar. 100% locked onto his revenge quest, Wolfgang asks point blank what the quest steps are to grab the license. Super hyped, the girl holds up a finger saying it's a tutorial level quest, only needing a win on the association's rank up exam. But then, the girl face plants on the desk out of nowhere, leaving her duo confused by the sudden mood debuff. The researcher drops the hard truth that the MC won't be able to queue for the test anytime soon, making the girl look up to ask why. The intern brings up the server gossip that the divine item used for the exam was recently smashed to bits. Totally tilted again, Yeren realizes the exam being offline makes grinding that specific badge practically impossible. Looking down all sad, the nerd apologizes to the barbarian for baiting him with a fake quest marker. Out of nowhere, a totally different strat is dropped in the chat, surprising Yeren and the warrior. The lab intern jumps on the mic, pointing out a secret backdoor rue to unlock the rare license. Playing it cool, the assistant suggests the best exploit is for the giant to enroll in the tutorial academy. The kid notes the badge can be printed by an authorized school, which totally catches the archaeologist's attention. The girl pushes back, saying the lobby is swarming with noobs, but the nerd counters, saying there are players over level 20 enrolled. With that, the girl snaps her neck to the hero, asking exactly what his account level was before he got stone locked. Keeping his poker face, the barbarian calmly states he's watched the 4 seasons cycle 33 times in his playthrough. The lore drop leaves the whole room shook, making the girl realize in pure horror that her account level is actually higher than the giant's. Lost in the modern chat filter, the warrior asks about the specific word she used, getting the tooltip that's a VAP honorific for older players. Nodding to the server's rules, Wolfgang agrees to equip the local habit and decides to use the polite tag for her. Super triggered by that, the girl demands he unequip the boomer pronoun while rocking such an old and scary skin. Inside the hunter office, a suit rep is running a tutorial for his coworker on the red zone raid schedules sent via mobile. Walking down an empty hall, the worker celebrates getting off work early and checks his UI for side quest to do. The guy checks his phone, remembering the guild master's quest to pick up the new recruit today. Reaching a locked room, he notices the nameplate, shows the foreign warrior's full gamertag. The guy's brain replays the hidden camera video, remembering the insane combo where the 2 pro assassins got yeeted. He calculates the exact frame the warrior caught the griefer's face with literally 0 stamina drain. Flashing a toxic smirk, the guy guesses the barbarian is sitting on a power tier infinitely higher than a basic F rank noob. The worker's strat is to solo stat check the guy's physical numbers, looking for the perfect excuse to trigger a PvP duel. On the crowded sidewalk, the girl walks with the warrior, promising she can craft a legit recommendation letter for his profile. The kid explains she crowdfunded enough gold to pay the cancellation fee for the scam contract with his current guild. Watching the stream from the Ember Utopia window, the greedy agent listens to the voice chat and plots his gank. The girl sighs, stressed out, admitting the final boss of this quest is the insane pay to win tuition fee for the academy. Wolfgang complains that the current patch is just like his old server, since every problem gets bypassed with premium currency. Right then, the guild rep rolls up on them stomping hard, offering to sponsor all the school microtransactions required. Rocking a fake smile, the guy sets one condition, asking for a tiny favor from the warrior as a trade for the gold. Seeing the audacity, the giant asks if the NPC really wants to tank a max DPS punch, advising him to drop the toxic strat. The rep takes a step back, warning that assuming his stats are trash just because he plays a desk job would be a massive throw. Scanning the guy's character model, the researcher doubts his claim of being a mid-tier fighter. Laughing like a troll, the agent notices the girl's hesitation and warns that judging players by their skins will get you sent packing. Secret item from his coat, the suit brags that with this relic's buff, he can easily 1v1 top-tier esports pros. Yurin's eyes go wide at the flex, trying to process the lore and praying the threat is just a bluff. She starts wondering internally if there's actually a massive raid boss secretly running the guild's patch notes from the shadows. Locking her eyes on the guy's relic, the girl decides she needs to run an authenticator on the item before jumping to conclusions. Totally unfazed, the giant tells his duo to stay back, because his radar already picked up the holy buff coming from the relic. Super cocky, the worker taunts the warrior, arguing that with the VIP shield active, dodging a punch is pointless. The guy shows off massive ego, admitting he really wants to test the defense stats of his holy amulet. Clenching his giant fist, the barbarian orders his partner to dash away fast so she doesn't catch the area of effect damage from his strike. Deadly, try-hard expression takes over the warrior's face, fully locked in to hand out a ban to the cocky agent. Already in his PvP stance on the sidewalk, the giant tells the enemy to pop his celestial ultimate right now to survive the hit. Gripping the item tight, the suit accepts the duel with a smug smile, bracing for the incoming damage. The magic item flashes crazy bright, proving the sky boss accepted the summon from its toxic user. A fist made of blue aura slices the air instantly after the magic flash leaves the item. The system pings that the entity is directly possessing the worker's character model, a glitch that surprises even the suit himself. Yurin is shook, totally lost on how a sky spirit can hijack a player's skin and wondering what tier of VIP has that kind of hack. The worker's face is glowing with a busted buff, flashing a smile packed with 100% confidence. The guy's cosmetic skin completely overrides, swapping to the classic robes of an ancient judge. The archaeologist tries to ID the sky boss, guessing the lore the second she spots the divine horse emblem. Straight up, the possessed player drops his nama tag as Park Mun-soo, announcing he's the royal admin inspector. A crushing wave of aura drops from the skybox, spawning a massive mob of ghost ads circling the hijacked player. A Legion of Souls gets into formation instantly, ready to buff their raid leader in the 1v1. Wolfgang stares at the cutscene looking bored, calmly asking if he should just affect the whole mob at once. The royal admin swears he doesn't need to fear the ads, explaining they just act as mana batteries for his holy buff. He warns that his ultimate punishes griefers and scales up based on the enemy's toxicity, so if the rival has zero malice, they won't take damage. Understanding the dev's coding, the warrior just shakes his head and readies his fist for the strike. With lethal intent, the giant lands a merciless, frontal critical hit straight to the royal admin's face. The deleting blow yeets the opponent backward, and the guy begs for a timeout, completely stunned, locked by the glitched DPS of the punch. The vintage hat cosmetic goes flying through the map, while the guy's hitbox is launched hard into the sky. The combat ads freak out, totally blinded by the smoke in the PvP zone. Through the dust cloud, Yurin squints her eyes, super stressed to see the match results. The heavy wind unplugs instantly, leaving the hunter confused about why the mystic aura just despawned. Scanning the street, she spots the warrior standing tall and wonders if the duel is over. Chill as ever, the hero asks if the girl took any tick damage, hearing her confirm her HP is still totally full. Shook, the girl points at the dude laid out on the pavement, stuttering to ask if the rep got permanently deleted. Cuffing in pain, the suit realizes salty that his master plan did not play out like the simulation at all. The warrior confirms the enemy didn't hit 0 HP, immediately asking if that one tap secures the gold for his school tuition. Getting her confidence back, Yurin commands the defeated agent to process the tuition transaction, demanding he spawn at the school bright and early on Monday. Floored on the concrete, the worker promises he'll pay the tab to avoid pulling any more aggro. The guy forces his torso up with massive effort, relieved his radar, doesn't pick up any dark aura from the barbarian. Holding his busted face, the agent admits the guild absolutely cannot let a broken stat stick like him leave their roster. Pure confusion floods the man's brain as he realizes he took a clean one, tap even while buffed by a legit Sky VIP's ultimate. Watching the giant walk away in the evening lighting, the rep questions his own sanity, trying to guess the hidden lore of that mystery player. The suit tries to theory craft if the MC is actually a smurfing constellation or maybe even a higher tier admin entity. In a training map far away, the cocky student Kim Jin Woo is spamming sweaty combos in the gym, rocking zero torso armor. A heavy armored dummy is shaking from the crazy DPS of the kid's punch spam. The student channels a blue aura into his right hand, showing sweaty focus for his next skill. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the student dashes forward, dropping an attack packed with all his stored mana. Buffed hit explodes straight into the school's DPS meter. Breathing heavy, the fighter locks his eyes on the score generated by his grind session. The digital UI calculates the exact damage output of the strike at max speed. The monitor flashes the score of 2,127 points, filling the kid with massive hype seeing his stats level up. A few days later, the epic stairs of the high school in Seoul are glowing in the morning skybox. Yurin speedruns the stairs, telling the warrior to pop a sprint, hearing the giant calmly reply that he is already moving at max speed. The hunter scolds him, warning that intentionally lagging behind won't cancel their quest at the school. A bit behind them, the agent is breathing heavy, trying to argue that the real debuff isn't the gold cost, but the stamina drain from getting possessed. Walking down the main hall, the guy claims the giant has insane RNG, since the exams got delayed and the queue timer was extended because the holy item got smashed. The front desk. The rep tells the NPC that the player already has his starter ID and requests an instant queue. The desk clerk hands over the verification slip, explaining the noob will be stuck in the F-tier lobby until he grinds up the ranks via the school's promotion quests. Yurin sighs in relief at the clutch timing, thinking it's absolute peak comedy that the barbarian secured his invite purely because of the divine item he griefed. The admin at the desk confirms the school issues instant VIP passes for specialized squads like the Demon Hunting Division. A sharp-dressed NPC walks up smiling, announcing he's the raid leader in charge of that specific skill tree. The hunter recognizes the guy's gamer tag instantly, whispering the name Kim Song-cheol in pure shock. The teacher clarifies he's running Class F, and tells the newbie to tag along while he deals with the paperwork. Thinking Wolfgang is Yurin's dad, the guy tells the big bro to chill in the lobby and sort out the school fees. Letting out an awkward giggle, the hunter points at the absolute unit of a barbarian and explains he's actually the new student. Totally dying inside from the mix-up, the educator tries to save face, guessing our hero must have unlocked his powers way later in life. Super awkwardly, the corporate suit cuts in, trying to figure out who he needs to talk to about clearing the tuition tab. Dodging a massive bullet, the teacher happily points to the clerk, making it clear the administrative guy will handle the cash. Meanwhile, the poor worker hiking up the mountain is fighting for his life, and panting and roasting whoever thought it was a brilliant idea to build a high school on a freaking mountain. Strolling through the campus greens, the teacher asks what kind of gear the rookie rocks, getting a casual longsword as the answer. The archaeologist gets curious and asks if low-tier classes really expect you to bring your own hardware on day one. The educator feels bad for not giving them a heads up to stash the sword, but the warrior chills him out, flexing that he can literally spawn his weapon out of thin air whenever he wants. The girl is completely lost, trying to wrap her head around how he plans to swing a massive blade that isn't even there. Out of nowhere, a massive gust of wind totally blasts through their path. Yurin nearly jumps out of her skin at the dude zooming past them, yelling that speeding like that in the open is a major safety hazard. The teacher instantly clocks the speed demon and chews him out for rushing. The long-haired guy hits the brakes, landing on the ground smooth as butter. Looking totally majestic, the student calmly turns around and asks if somebody was calling for him. The teacher tells the student to show the newbie the ropes and lead him to the Class FF dorms, spilling that they're actually in the same major. Barely batting an eye, the veteran gives Wolfgang a nod, telling him to just follow his lead. The fighter gives the hunter a heads up that they're splitting up here, promising he'll keep himself out of trouble. She reminds him to actually use his smartphone if things go sideways, and lays down the law, absolutely no decking people without a solid excuse. The archaeologist doubles down on the strict mom vibes, totally banning any kind of campus brawls. Keeping quiet, the warrior turns on his heel and marches off like a boss, trailing right behind the school guide. She watches her big buddy walk away, secretly crossing her fingers that he manages to vibe with the new crowd. Cracking up, the educator jokes that she's acting exactly like a mom shipping her kid off to boot camp, which totally ticks Yurin off. Completely cooked from the hike, the corporate guy catches up and asks about the bill, while the girl is just screaming in the background. Totally fed up with the mix-up, the hunter screams at the top of her lungs that they are definitely not the fighter's sugar daddies. Cruising down the school halls, the girl spots a massive photo wall and asks if it's some kind of hall of fame. The suit confirms it, flexing that the board highlights the absolute gyo eats of each class and dropping that he was actually part of the 10th generation. Pointing at a pic of a dude with a buzz cut, the guy mentions that kid totally peaked back in the day. The suit complains he missed the top spot because his stamina was trash, figuring Yurin must have heard the lore about that famous consolation contractor. Looking at the photo with some major nostalgia, he points out the kid could have been living his best rich boy life with that kind of insane talent. The archaeologist remembers Jin Seong the hunter for bagging contracts for his whole family, but the suit drops the tea that it was all for nothing since the kid was just desperately sweating for his dad's approval. Listening to the gossip, the girl figures there's definitely some messy family drama hiding behind the scenes. The guy in the suit spills that crushing it as Anders was always that family's ultimate flex, turning into this massive weight the dad forced on the kid, which basically became his whole life's mission. Weirded out by how deep he is in their business, the hunter points out he knows way too much lore about random people, but he just brushes it off as old school curiosity. A school rep hits pause on their hallway tour, thanking the squad for putting up with the wait. The front desk guy double checks if assistant Kim Jong-won is actually putting the foreign dude Wolfgang up for a full ride scholarship. Flashing a huge grin, the agent confirms that corporate-backed students get a free pass on enrollment and first semester fees, asking them to slide that discount immediately. Shook by the hustle, Yaren realizes all that try-hard energy was just to save some cash, listening to the suit admit he'd never drop that kind of bag and would rather just buy a brand new car. To wrap up the enrollment, the school clerk hands over some extra paperwork and leads the agent into the office. Paranoid she's gonna get ditched, the girl commands her partner to wait up, only to get a salty comeback telling her to hurry up and sign the papers. The girl lets out a huge sigh, admitting she's super hyped the fees are covered, but still thinks the suit guy is a massive pain in the neck. Trying to shake off the bad vibes, the archaeologist zones out and keeps walking. Something super sketchy is still living rent-free in her head, giving her flashbacks to when Jin Seong was literally everywhere on social media. Staring at the wall pic again, Yeren tries to figure out how a prodigy like that just completely ghosted the scene. Stepping into the office, the school worker spots someone and asks them to chill for a sec while they sort out the registration papers. The corporate guy smoothly walks in, secretly keeping tabs on the edgy dude lounging by the window. Staring at the stranger's face, the suit gets hit with major déjà vu and racks his brain, trying to remember where he knows the guy from. The assistant's face totally drops in pure shock when it finally clicks who's chilling on the sofa. Completely totally shook by the reveal, the agent stutters, pointing a shaky finger straight at the guy. Tripping out, he calls his old buddy by his name, demanding to know what on earth Jin Seong is doing back here after ghosting everyone for so long. Meanwhile, the hunter is still playing detective about the cracked hair who locked down a divine deal for his fam, remembered as an absolute prodigy. With the veteran's face burned into her brain, she thinks about how he vanished, totally convinced they've never actually crossed paths in real life. But when she really thinks about how her big barbarian buddy acts, the archaeologist notices a weirdly similar stubborn energy between the two. Over in another part of campus, the bratty student Jin Woo grips his bag with pure rage, complaining that he doesn't have the guts to walk in, but is in way too deep to back out now. Parked right outside tutor Kim Song Keel's door, the salty kid curses his trash luck for getting dumped into the demon hunter class, feeling like an absolute failure. Right then, a dude with long hair crashes his pity party, curious why the kid is trashing the class so hard. Jumping out of his skin, the kid takes a step back to ID the guy, realizing he's literally staring at the Class F homeroom teacher. Flashing a nice smile, the teacher confirms who he is and clocks the kid as Kim Jin-woo, the brand new student for the semester. Jumping back to the drama, the teacher asks for his hot take on the subject. The kid instantly trashes it, saying the whole job is just playing hide and seek with monsters without any epic boss fights. Keeping his cool, Song-chil explains that tracking is the main goal, but drops a reality check the job actually demands close quarters combat, usually way before the backup squad even shows up. The whole academic advice session gets completely derailed when the door bursts open, revealing a bald dude giving off absolute menace vibes. The kid's face instantly twists into pure rage the second he recognizes the guy who just walked in. Staying completely unbothered, the absolute unit of a man scans the room, radiating major boss energy. Completely losing his marbles, Jin Woo charges in, hurling insults at the veteran, totally mind blown by the sheer audacity of the guy showing his face here. Mauling over his own downfall, the kid points the finger at the newcomer, screaming and asking if he even realizes the absolute dumpster fire he started. Channeling a thick purple aura into his arm, the kid throws a massive haymaker, but the bald dude just tanks it with one hand like it's literally nothing. The mystical crash slams into the vet's block, setting off a sonic boom that rattles the entire room. Punishing the sloppy attack, the man shoves the kid back using pure, unadulterated physical strength. The student stumbles backward, completely discombobulated, while the brick-walled dude just leaves his arm out, totally asserting dominance. Confused by the random aggro, the bald guy asks what on earth the kid is yapping about and if an enemy gang sent him, making it clear any beef needs to be taken up directly with him. Floating mid-air from the clash, Jin Woo thrashes around full of hate and demands to be put down. Seeing the brawl getting out of hand, the educator raises a hand, popping an immobilization spell with a flash of golden light. The glowing light instantly breaks up the fight, freezing the kid mid-air while he completely loses it, terrified his arm is about to snap. Annoyed by the interruption, the veteran side eyes the teacher, trying to figure out what his deal is. Chuckling politely, Song Keel admits he figured it was better to put them in timeout before things escalated into a total disaster. Taking charge of the room, the tutor drops a reality check. Throwing hands on campus means instant expulsion, and it would super suck to lose his first students in literal years. Flashing a polite smile, the teacher suggests settling the beef with an official sparring match, knowing their toxic history means talking it out is never going to happen. Outside the building, the corporate guy walks toward the steps and totally trolls his old buddy Jin Seong about his daily routine. The suit roasts the guy's edgy attitude and cuts straight to the chase, asking if his squad is still sweating over that mysterious energy. Dropping the jokes, the suit gets dead serious and tells his old friend to quit that sketchy hunt as soon as possible. Giving the newcomer a massive side eye, the chill guy fires back, telling him to trash that useless horse accessory he carries around. The agent admits the relic is basically garbage most of the time, but hypes up how cracked it is against people messing with dark magic, making it absolutely lethal. Speed walking down the stairs, the suit declares this reunion a total bust and suggests they just never cross paths again. The assistant vanishes into the sunny courtyard, leaving the lonely hunter to sit on the school steps and overthink everything. Watching the suit walk off, Yerin gets weirded out by the heavy vibes and totally suspects those two were actually bros. Back in the classroom, the bald guy crosses his arms, looking low-key salty, and asks if the teacher is going to force him to fight using only holy energy. Song Keel reminds him of the class's whole point: only those who can smooth, brain holy energy can actually track monster footprints. The master lays it down, mastering this skill is mandatory, and this brawl is basically their first pop quiz. The older fighter asks what the penalty is if he just claps the kid using regular moves, getting a harsh reality check that he'd instantly be kicked out or moved to a different class. Laughing like a menace, Jin Woo calls his opponent a boomer and asks how he even enrolled without knowing the basic rules. Completely ignoring the kid's trash talk, the big guy double checks with the teacher to see if he's only locked into using holy energy for literally everything. The teacher slides them a VIP pass for the test, allowing any strat as long as they don't actually physically touch each other. Setting them up in the school gym, the instructor gives the green light, warning them that some bruises are fine, but unaliving each other is strictly banned. With the rules locked in, Song Cheol looks at the blue-haired kid and asks if he's got any beef with the setup. Dripping in absolute nightmare fuel magic, Jin Woo skips the pleasantries and demands they get this show on the road. Looking absolutely unhinged, the student cracks his knuckles, swearing he's going to completely rearrange his enemy's face. Charging up his edgelord magic, the kid tells the vet to watch his back while pointing his attack straight at a basket of sports balls. The freaky power grabs one of the balls, floating it perfectly mid-air like locked and loaded ammo. Launching the item with a crazy fiery glow, Jin Woo screams that the bald dude is going to instantly regret breathing the same oxygen as him. The fireball of doom speeds straight at the veteran, who just stands there like a brick wall, waiting for the hit. The ball literally explodes right in the giant's face, leaving a massive scorch mark and blowing smoke all over the floor. Flexing some purple magic in his hands, Jin Woo sarcastically asks how the guy liked his bootleg fireball trick. Wolfgang lets out a massive sigh, looking super annoyed, and complains that the kid just trashed his fit, which is incredibly annoying. The kid screams from the other side of the gym, telling him to rage quit and literally crawl on the floor, begging for mercy. With the teacher standing between them, the barbarian says they need to have a chat, but the kid just laughs, thinking the guy is just stalling. Seeing the kid acting like a total tryhard, the MC quickly decides this brat is only going to listen after a solid beatdown. Staring his opponent down with zero chill, the veteran decides to give the kid exactly 60 seconds to show off his absolute best. Far away from the gym drama, the archaeologist is walking with the corporate suit, who brags that he just completely finished paying off the school bills. The duo chills and chats while trekking up the outdoor paths of the massive Seoul campus. Yerin clocks his weird vibe and straight up asks if he's just dragging his feet to avoid leaving. Refusing to drop it, she demands the tea on what actually went down between the suit and that random kid earlier. Trying to play it cool, the employee forces a super awkward smile and claims it's just your average love-hate vibe between old rivals. The hunter hits back, saying it's literally been years since he graduated, forcing the guy to admit that time definitely did not heal that beef. Wrapping up the chat, the girl admits the whole thing sounds messy, but she adds that she didn't actually pick up on any real villain energy from his old buddy. Hearing her take, the corporate guy keeps walking down the stairs, deep in thought about the whole reunion. Staring at the pavement, the guy totally agrees with Yurin, admitting he felt the exact same way. The suit guy gets in his feels, remembering how his old bro always bottled up his emotions, realizing that squating up again is always insanely hard. Back at the fight, Jinwoo is acting cocky as ever after dropping his fake fireball magic. Cracking his knuckles, the warrior doubles down the kid has exactly 1 minute to prove he isn't completely washed. In a split second, a massive spam of destructive spells rains down on the veteran, kicking up a colossal cloud of dust. Watching the absolute spam fest, the master realizes things are getting sketchy and starts stressing over the collateral damage. The tutor yells at the kid for going totally overboard, screaming that he laid down super strict rules for this bar. Completely unhinged, the kid tries to justify his rage mode, blaming his opponent for making the deity ghost him and break their holy contract. Flexing his arm in glowing yellow magic, the kid announces he's ending this, telling the teacher to pray his enemy doesn't end up in a hospital bed. Another absolutely massive explosion rocks the gym floor, completely washing the room in blinding light. The thick cloud of dust slowly starts to fade out. Walking right out of the blast zone with 0 scratches, Wolfgang complains that modern clothes are absolute garbage since his fit is already trashed. The massive dude steps up, totally flexing his insane build through the ripped fabric. Song Kyo's jaw drops. He is completely shook at how effortlessly the rookie managed to trigger the Fenrir leather magic shield. Standing like a boss in the middle of the arena, the MC tosses his ruined clothes aside while the teacher watches in pure shock. With a quick flick, he chucks the remains of his dark jacket right over the safety net. Totally flabbergasted by the guy's tank build, Jin Woo demands to know what kind of broken cheat code defense he's running with that beast fur. Without saying a single word, the warrior locks in and sprints at top speed, leaning forward to go even faster. Scanning the kid mid-sprint, Wolfgang spots a super sketchy tattoo on the kid's arm and instantly realizes it's straight-up demon magic. The veteran launches himself crazy high, getting massive airtime while charging up an absolutely devastating slam. Dropping like a meteor, the big guy completely shatters the gym floor, sending debris flying everywhere right next to the kid. Just the pure, overwhelming boss energy of the legendary warrior is enough to totally dominate the room. The massive shockwave from his landing violently blasts his opponent backward. Trying to stop himself from wiping out, the kid clutches his wrist, feeling some freaky dark magic pulsing totally out of control. Watching from the sidelines, the teacher spots the glitch and instantly panics, realizing something is incredibly wrong. The student's arm starts shooting out red sparks, while the edgy tattoo glows up reacting to the fight. Totally freaking out, the student's eyes go wide, having 0 clue why a specific monster is spawning in the room. The barbarian's massive shadow towers over the tripped kid, radiating a super heavy and dangerous vibe. A magical Cerberus spawns into the arena, making the kid panic and ask why the 3-headed dog suddenly latched onto him. The mythical beast snarls that the student is going to pay for breaking the contract, ordering him to lock in a new deal with the guard dog to get his powers back. Absolutely shaking in his boots, the kid refuses the deal, knowing the dog is going to charge him a totally scam-level price for it. But the edgy voice in Jin Woo's head cruelly drops the truth if he says no, he's literally going to get deleted from existence. On the sidelines, the other students are totally losing their minds, screaming that the giant dog is going to eat them for lunch. The student covers his face, shaking and crying, until Wolfgang taps his shoulder and tells him to take a chill pill. The warrior promises that nobody is biting the dust today, breaking down the lore that these Shadow Edge lords literally just feed on human panic. While the 3-headed dog keeps roaring, the veteran drops the bomb that the beast is about to ask for the kid's actual lifespan as a subscription fee. Staring him down seriously, the barbarian says he's seen plenty of dudes sign these scam contracts, telling the kid to take a deep breath and just face the dog. The kid stutters, saying he's totally cooked and can't do it, while the teacher starts charging up a light spell to save him. Ready to show him how it's really done, the big guy says he's going to pull off something epic to prove that edgy dark magic is definitely not the wave. Shocked by the flex, Shang Chiel cracks a smile, totally hyped by the veteran's game plan. Suddenly, an absolute hurricane of blue energy explodes out of the warrior, completely hijacking the vibe of the whole room. The massive magic storm leaves both the teacher and the kid completely mind blown by the insane power scaling. A colossal glowing blue wolf spawns in the arena, totally ratioing the dark creature's aura. Wolfgang says what's up to Fenrir and suggests they test out his old buddy's bite, making the three-headed dog totally freeze up in pure terror. The wolf spirit complains that the enemy already rage quit, asking if he was seriously summoned just to scare this pathetic little mutt. The barbarian disagrees, telling his old pal he only called him out to drop the news that the monster hunting season is officially back online in this new era. Checking out his old partner, Fenrir realizes that even after a literal 1,000 years, the warrior is still heavily bonded to the squad. The spirit dips out to save the fighter's stamina, promising to slide into the group chat and hype up his epic comeback to the rest of the holy squad. Sitting on the floor, the kid tries to process everything, completely shook that he just heard a summoned pet drop dialogue like an actual human. Meanwhile, outside the building, Yurin is literally sprinting for her life, trying to figure out where her big buddy ran off to. Right behind her, the suit complains, telling her to hustle because the paperwork delay totally ruined his schedule. Suddenly, the employee hits the brakes and gets the hunter's attention, pointing at something wild in the sky. The guy in the suit zooms in on a massive object flying through the air at super speed, asking if that looks familiar to her. Back in the gym, Wolfgang casually looks up, satisfied that his Amazon Prime delivery finally found the right address. The massive vintage sword slices through the sky, spinning like crazy straight toward the combat zone. The fighter cracks a huge smile seeing his gear drop, while the shadow dog goes into pure panic mode seeing the weapon. With an absolutely massive boom, the giant sword crashes down, completely shattering the floor right in the middle of the arena. In the staff room, the teacher clears things up. Edgy dark contracts aren't actually banned for demon trackers since they are insanely clutch for finding tricky targets. Chilling in his chair, Song Chil asks why Jin Woo picked this nightmare route, reminding him that he has a genius brother and a family loaded with cash. Song Chil pushes the issue, pointing out that with his family's massive bank account and influence, buying VP-blessed gear for a proper contract shouldn't have been an issue at all. Staring the kid down, the warrior just quietly waits for the tea. The fighter says he'll drop it if the kid decides to drop out, but demands a legit, no-cap explanation if he plans on staying in the monster hunting program. Dark deals hand out instant buffs, but with terrible terms of service. Acting like a mentor, the big guy drops a reality check, signing with that three-headed dog literally costs 50% of your entire lifespan. Totally traumatized, Jin Woo realizes he's way more cooked than he thought. Sitting on the floor, the kid, straight up, panics hearing the monster going to drain his actual years away. The kid swallows hard, scrambling to find the words to excuse his terrible life choices. Sounding super bitter, the kid admits he's basically the black sheep of his family. Back in the day, his older brother managed to score a busted contract with the barbarian god, and the whole family totally lost their minds over his insane talent. Their squad was already flexing legendary martial arts history on top of a massive pile of money. The boy's dad benched himself from fighting to become a big shot CEO, but he always kept his try-hard obsession with martial arts cloud alive. The oldest brother's massive win basically shared the deity's VIP buffs with the rest of the bloodline. The boss of the family realized his ultimate flex was finally happening through his kids. While the whole house was popping bottles, celebrating the dream life, Jin Woo felt completely left out and miserable. But the youngest kid literally rolled a 0 on talent and completely threw the game, thanks to the problem child acting up. The holy entity straight up canceled the subscription for the entire family. Mauling over his own flashbacks, the kid blames the enemy who completely exposed him during the entrance exams. Annoyed by the whining, the warrior asks how any of this is his fault. The kid thinks the veteran got triggered being compared to a cosmic god, but gets told the real loss was just being too dumb to recognize the legendary Wolfgang. Flashing back to the entrance exam, the kid remembers the massive glowing spirit literally begging the buff dude for mercy like a total fanboy. The warrior explains that the clapback for the kid's disrespect ended right there. Everything that went down after was pure drama strictly between the kid and the guardian spirit. Catching an attitude, the seasoned guy makes it clear he was totally down to let it slide, but abusing the power basically forced a massive reality check. The flashback shows the ancient god instantly agreeing with the warrior, spilling that the nerf was actually part of his master plan from day one. With the wisdom of a literal war veteran, the warrior figures the holy being was already super sus about giving power to that greedy family. Triggered by the accusation, Jin Woo jumps up screaming that none of it makes sense. He admits he's basically trash, but defends his big bro, calling him an absolute G8, who never would have been nerfed if they actually had skills. Wolfgang answers super chill, saying he has zero clue who this genius brother is, so he can't really judge. The only absolute fact is that the kid standing in front of him took a massive, embarrassing loss trying to use the old school warrior power. The kid's biggest nerf was never his lack of raw talent. The actual problem was the super toxic and arrogant way he looked at and used his borrowed buffs. The warrior lays down the law. If the rest of his family acts like entitled tryhards too, they completely clash with his society's pure vibes. In a totally different scene, boxes and files are being run out of a fancy office, dropping massive hints that the family's faction is getting cancelled. A guy who looks like a reskin of the student but with way more intense vibes hears the gossip about the school brawl and realizes his little bro is the main character of the mess. Absolutely seething, Jin Sung starts dropping swears about his little bro, storming out to hunt down the problem child and settle the beef right now. Outside the campus, a guy is literally sprinting for his life down the stone paths as the sun goes down. Yurin tells assistant Junwan to pick up the pace. The explorer warns him they are absolutely cooked if the barbarian wrecks the campus again, pointing out the suit's job is definitely on the line. Completely out of breath, the corporate guy trips on the main stairs, cursing the school's absolute nightmare of a climb, while fighting for his life just to catch a breath. Out on the campus lawn, Jin Woo drops to his knees, literally begging his big bro for forgiveness. The kid takes the blame for everything and promises he'll find a way to patch up his massive fails. Clinging onto Jin Sung's leg, the student is ugly, crying in front of literally everyone on campus. Totally disgusted by the cringe public display, the veteran drops a nasty kick right into his own little brother. The brutal hit sends the youngest kid flying, making him totally wipe out and slide across the school grass. Wrecked on the ground and hurting bad, the kid can barely open his eyes while getting totally hit by the consequences of his own actions. Raging hard, the family prodigy tells his brother to stop crying like an absolute loser. He goes off about how the kid just ruins everything and just sits there looking dumb. Jin Seong totally snaps and starts pummeling his downed brother with zero chill. The veteran screams that he completely busted his back to get this useless kid enrolled, only for him to throw away a brand new divine deal on literally day one. Watching the absolute circus from the upstairs window, the warrior asks the tutor if him hanging around is going to get the school cancelled. The educator admits it would be a massive headache if he actually followed the rule book, staying locked in. The warrior repeats he needs absolute clearance and wants to know if there are going to be any real blocks. Flashing a chill smile, the teacher calms the fighter down, swearing this whole mess is actually a huge win, not a setback. Down in the courtyard, the beatdown continues. The vet tells his family to stop yapping, take the loss, and demands total respect after this academic flop. Jumping back to the office chat, Song Chil scans his new bro and calls him out, saying he totally knew about the kid's dark contract way before the fight even started. The big guy admits it, saying he just needed an extra sec to vibe, check the aura. The teacher is honestly shook, admitting that when it comes to riding a deity's energy to track sneaky targets, the warrior stats completely gap any active pro. Even as the number one guy in his field, the instructor admits he only clocked the kid's dark magic way after the MC did. The fighter's insane flex left the counselor totally mind blown. He admits he didn't even know which monster the kid was hiding until he saw the guard dog literally get yanked out by Wolfgang's crazy aura. Running down the guest stat sheet, the tutor hypes up the absolute god tier spatial manipulation he whipped out in the arena. Right after, the teacher glazes the insane top tier magic he used to spawn the ancient wolf spirit and absolutely traumatize the three-headed dog. The teacher is even more shook remembering the telekinesis the hero used to literally pull his sword across the city skyline. Completely baffled by how cracked he is, Song Keel asks why an absolute unit like him is even bothering with a noob level class, admitting he's never seen someone with that kind of broken kit. Getting super annoyed with all the yapping, the fighter drops the nice guy act and tells the dude to just get straight to the point. The counselor suggests the rookie just speedruns a proficiency test to skip the tutorial phase. Since he's literally just here for the diploma, it makes way more sense to just flex his stats instead of wasting months listening to boring lectures. But something outside the window totally distracts the teacher. He stops talking, realizing the vibe in the courtyard just went from chill campus to absolute fight club. Down on the grass, Jin Seong is still dropping nasty combos on his little bro, showing some seriously bottomless family rage. Sprinting in full panic mode to break it up, Yurin slides into the mess and screams at him to stop the toxic beatdown right now. The explorer tanks the space in front of the beaten kid, screaming her lungs out trying to figure out why he's going full psycho right in the middle of the school. Looking at her with pure disgust, the veteran tells the woman to back up and violently asks who gave her the right to stick her nose into their private family beef. Before things get completely cancelled, Assistant Junwon grabs his ex-buddy from behind and begs him to stop throwing hands before he literally unalives his own brother. The aggressor thrashes around super angry, telling them to get off and roasting them for being nosy. Using all his strength to hold the raging kid back, the corporate guy demands to know why he's acting like an absolute villain, reminding him he never used to be this toxic, blinded by pure hatter energy. His former bro completely ignores the reality check and tries to justify punishing the youngest. Out of nowhere, an absolutely massive slap lands right on the veteran's face, completely freezing the screaming match with a loud smack. The crazy hit leaves the employee and the archaeologist totally shook, dropping down from the building in seconds. Wolfgang is right there with the teacher, who just handed out a massive reality check to the disrespectful kid. Gripping the bully's wrist with zero chill, the white shirt teacher makes it crystal clear that throwing hands outside danger zones is straight up illegal, plus starting a riot on campus equals an instant ban. The tutor squeezes even harder, making it obvious his real issue is that the kid went rogue and started this mess without his permission. Flashing a super dark and scary smile, the teacher says he absolutely won't let anyone break the rules right in front of him. Radiating absolutely terrifying boss music energy, Song Cheolice coldly tells the kid to shut the drama down right this second. The teacher's eyes glow with totally pure and heavy power. He drops the ultimatum: if the kid wants all the smoke, he'll clear out a spot in the yards so they can catch hands properly right there. Shook by the admin's violent vibe check, Jin Seong asks why the guy even adopted his useless little bro as an official student. The family prodigy swallows hard, totally raging, asking if the academy is really going to accept some scrub who completely failed at making deals with stars or even low-tier mobs. Standing next to the beaten kid, the counselor casually drops that not having a mystic deal means literally nothing to him. The kid's debuffs don't stop the school from leveling up new players. The veteran stares at the squad in total silence, feeling his cheek absolutely burning from the mega slap he just tanked. Keeping a stone-cold face, the tutor just waits for the trespasser to finally take the loss after laying down the absolute law of the campus. Completely ratioed by a much higher level boss, Jin Seong turns around cursing his knocked-out brother. He caves to the teacher's pressure and officially gives the green light for his brother to enroll. The defeated kid Speed walks straight for the gym doors, completely ditching the insanely toxic vibes he left behind. A bit later, the sign for the Block F infirmary shows that the kids who got wiped in the yard are currently getting patched up. Chilling in the hospital bed, Jin Woo rests easy while his health points refill. Agent Junwon explains to the archaeologist that the campus has crazy good healing spells that basically speed run patching up light damage. Watching the kids sleep like a rock, the teacher smiles, feeling genuinely bad for the whole mess. He thinks to himself that the real damage isn't physical, it's the kid's completely shattered and totally defeated mental state. The explorer really wants the tea on whether the older brother started this whole toxic dumpster fire. She grills the teacher, trying to get the exact lore of what went down in the yard. The teacher pauses for a second before dropping the info. His brain is trying to figure out the least messy way to explain this wild family beef. Flashing back to the screaming match, the student was yelling that his brother was an absolute prodigy. The kid thought it was totally unfair that the family's Gyo8 got nerfed, claiming he was the only one who should have tanked the loss. The fighter asked what then kind of busted magic was being used, completely brainwashed by fanboy energy. The kid just kept hyping up his brother's insane stats. Cut back to now. The veteran stares at the teacher, completely refusing to believe his useless bro actually got accepted. He argues with the school's matchmaking, reminding everyone the kid can't even lock in a basic tier 1 contract. While the family genius keeps mauling over his brother, the teacher stays totally locked in. He orders the guy to just back off and let the kid enroll in peace. Staying super chill, the teacher points out one totally obvious fact in this whole circus: there's definitely some crazy deep lore that only those two brothers actually know. Right then, the warrior slams the door open, completely cutting off the chat. With absolutely zero patience for stalling, the MC announces he's dipping out. The tutor asks if the giant dude grabbed the loot drops from the three-headed dog. The hero nods and drops a massive warning to not touch the stuff, since the dark aura is still active even after the boss was deleted. Far away, the agent is walking with his old buddy in the campus parking lot. Junwon demands an excuse for that toxic beatdown, reminding him they could have easily just talked it out at his house. The suit points out he literally just jumped his own blood brother, with zero empathy. Jin Sung tells the corporate guy to stop poking around his family's private lore. Weirded out by how cold he is, the agent realizes his old friend completely changed and asks if it has to do with him falling off the grid recently. The prodigy tells him to stop cooking up theories, swearing he has his reasons. Junwon seriously doubts there's any valid excuse for jumping your own family like that, running out of chill. His ex-friend curses the suit's annoying habit of always playing detective. The vibes are completely in the mud as they walk through the parking lot during sunset. The awkward space between them proves how much their old squad has totally fallen off. Inside the ride, the suit changes the subject and asks why his buddy stopped digging into his own dad's sketchy history. Still sounding super salty, Jin Sang admits he dropped it because he officially quit the guild. The employee asks if the higher-ups know the head of his family was messing with straight-up band magic. The suit wants to vibe, check how much the admins actually know. He figures the admins are totally clueless, admitting he blurred out a lot of details in his official report. The young dude warns that the guild is going to totally lose it if they find out the truth. Then comes the heaviest drop. The agent straight up accuses his old friend of secretly abusing a dark monster's buffs. Without even flinching, Jin Seong turns his head and stares at his boy in the driver's seat. The family prodigy sarcastically guesses that the only reason he hasn't been reported yet is because of their old squad days. The vibe in the car gets incredibly suffocating. The veteran admits he doesn't know whether to say thanks for the loyalty or just be completely mad at him for being so annoying. Issues resolved. The car drives off into the sunset. The two former bros seem like they are on totally different servers now. Night mode turns on over the city, lighting up the epic front of the Archaeology Guild. The research hub is still absolutely buzzing even after hours. In one of the labs, a young scientist is staring at the barbarian like he's crazy. He tries to double-check if the big guy seriously wants to craft defensive gear out of dark monster drops. Casually sipping a drink, Wolfgang confirms he's dead serious. The Absolute unit asks the lab to hook him up with a pro crafter who can handle the build. Completely lost by the request, the assistant begs the explorer to translate. Yurin lets out a massive, tired sigh, trying to figure out how to explain modern capitalism to him. She patiently explains that in the current meta, nobody just slides into a blacksmith's direct messages. She tells him there are literal corporations dedicated to dropping this kind of gear. The warrior says they should hit up those companies, but the hunter hard passes. She pitches selling the monster drops on the black market and using the cash to just buy the ultimate meta gear without dealing with the annoying red tape. The MC says bet, telling his partner to drop the listing online, but as a trade-off, he demands the girl keeps helping him track down his main target, which she instantly agrees to. Changing the topic, Wolfgang asks what kind of weapon they should buy with the money. He admits he has zero clue what to buy since the armor totally isn't for him. The random plot twist leaves the two researchers completely blue-screened. Yurin stutters, totally shook, asking exactly who the big guy is trying to gear up. Miles away, in a super premium office, a guild leader is checking his updates. The assistant super professionally confirms that the guard dog's fur just dropped on the market. The white-haired boss switches focus to a bigger emergency. He notices his youngest kid, Jin Woo, is still missing in action after school ended. The assistant drops the lore on the school brawl, explaining that the kid's shadow pet got completely wiped from the server by some dude named Wolfgang. The report ends by saying the kid got sent to the infirmary after his own brother absolutely rocked him. Looking at the city skyline, the dad trashes the warrior's name. Without missing a beat, he orders his cleaners to pull up and wipe the whole mess without leaving a single trace. The assistant tries to pitch a different strat, but gets instantly shut down. The boss says they only need to keep the useless kid breathing, just to keep the family prodigy from totally losing his mind. Making the final call, the leader orders them to go grab the trash kid from the school to figure out what to do with him. Right then, Jin Seong sneaks into the room and hears the whole evil villain monologue. Absolutely terrified by what he just heard, the oldest son begs them to pause for a second. The boss asks how long he's been camping outside the door. Shaking like a leaf, the kid straight up caps, saying he just loaded in and didn't hear a single thing. Clocking the lie instantly, the dad tells him to drop the act, since there's no reason to be scared of the family's master plan. The kid apologizes while the boss drops the news that the massive awakening is dropping soon. The leader's face turns into pure evil greed. He declares that once the strategy is fully executed, the entire planet is going to be locked under their family's control. The villain's speech leaves the veteran absolutely traumatized. A drop of cold sweat rolls down the kid's face as his brain tries to process his own dad's complete insanity. Unable to handle the insane toxic vibes, Jin Seong says he needs to dip. He turns around in speed, walks out of the office, desperate to escape that suffocating aura. As soon as the kid logs out of the room, the leader's voice gets dark again. He orders the assistant to keep the prodigy under surveillance 24/7 to stop any random glitches in his plan. Back at the school med bay, the youngest kid scares awake, gasping for air. Waking up in a totally random room leaves the boy super disoriented. Shockingly, Wolfgang is already chilling next to the bed offering him a shirt. The big guy points at the kid's chest and drops the news that the monster left a watermark right there. The older brother says the dark tattoo is permanently burned into his skin. He tells the student to use that mark to finally lock in a contract with the beast. Jin Seong tells his little bro to just blindly hit accept on whatever terms the monster demands. The vet argues that as a pro tracker, this buff will be enough to put the kid on a semi-decent playing field. Completely disgusted by the advice, the little bro refuses to sign with the dark side, swearing he's gonna grind to get the star's favor back, trying to keep it chill. His brother repeats that he literally has to do it right now. The vibes get absolutely terrifying when the prodigy says that without this firewall, the kid is basically getting deleted. Jin Woo shakes with fear, asking if his brother even knows what their dad would do if he caught him going rogue. The youngest kid remembers their dad would literally unalive his own kids without a second thought. With a super dark voice, Jin Seong promises this contract is literally their only plot armor to stay alive, hinting the family boss might actually greenlight this messed up move. Stressing over the future, the student reveals the boss of Lee spent literal years trying to unlock that banned magic. He warns that soon the family is gonna have a buff so crazy that not even the guild will be able to ignore them. Knowing the price tag is literally 50% of his life, the kid begs for a different strat. He desperately pleads for the vet to snitch to his guild buddy to stop their dad's absolute madness. Looking at the floor, Jin Seong instantly denies the request. The heavy burden of duty and fear completely silences the white-haired kid. Tears actually start dropping from the family genius's face, admitting his buddy would get totally wiped out if he tried to meddle. He begs his little brother to just listen, swearing this is their only shot at surviving the season. Completely shook seeing his try-hard older brother actually crying, the student just loses his voice in the middle of such a heavy cutscene. Totally broken by the pain and tears, Jin Woo falls back onto the bed. The kid whispers his brother's name while finally giving up and accepting the absolute nightmare waiting for them. Out of absolutely nowhere, invisible hands grab the kid's feet on the bed. The jump scare makes the kid scream in terror, thinking a ghost just clipped into the infirmary. The door gets blasted open, revealing the giant warrior and the two researchers. The MC demands the intruder surrender without throwing hands, while the student thrashes around trying to break out of the stealth attack. Popping an invisibility hack, the intruder literally throws himself out the school window. The mystery guy completely sprints into the night, just trying to run his escape. Rocking a hat and a face mask, Jin Seong parkours over the rooftops. The veteran's brain is totally racing against the clock, realizing he needs to make a move before his dad activates his master plan. Back in the staff room, Tutor Song Cheel stretches out in his chair after an insanely long shift. The teacher checks the clock and sees it's already way past midnight. Abusing the darkness, Jin Seong stealthily sneaks into the tutor's office in his full disguise. The experienced kid totally loots the room, trying not trigger any sound alerts. Totally unfazed by the late night break-in, the tutor cracks a smile and nicely asks why his old student is lurking around at these hours. The scene cuts to the school dorms. The masked guy slowly opens a door, making sure the hallway has absolutely zero guards. Peeking super stealthily into the pitch black room, the intruder tries to confirm if this is actually the target location he was hunting for. Moving fast, the guy rips back the blanket on the main bed. He gets ready to totally ambush the victim while they're sleeping in their room. But he gets massively disappointed when he sees the bed is completely made and empty, totally lost. The masked man wonders where the heck the guy living here went. The seasoned kid curses under his breath, totally salty he targeted the wrong person. He was almost 100% sure he'd catch the guy logging off here, and tries to guess where he could have relocated. Out of nowhere, a glowing magic grabs the intruder, lifting him totally off the floor. The kid struggles, trying to figure out what kind of broken crowd control spell he just got hit with. Spawning out of the shadows, the tutor keeps the spell fully active in his hands. He drops that he was already super suspicious of his old student, while the kid stutters after getting totally caught in the act. Radiating absolutely massive boss energy, the teacher orders the kid to follow him without making a peep. The low-key threat makes it super obvious that things are going to get incredibly messy if he tries to start a riot. Somewhere else in the building, Jin, who absolutely faceplants on the floor in pure panic. The student screams, demanding to know who the giant dude is, and why he will not stop aggressively hunting him down. The absolute unit says he's making the little brother his #1 minion, commanding him to drop his clothes so they can get his measurements. The kid totally panics, thinking the request is insanely out of pocket. Keeping his boss persona, the MC remembers the kid actually wants a holy deal instead of an edgy shadow one. Yeren and her buddy watch the whole thing while the warrior swears he'll finance the deity into dropping an exclusive contract if the kid actually proves he's not totally useless. A total glow-up of hope lights up the rejected kid's face. Unable to process the massive win, the student emotionally asks if he seriously has a second chance at getting favored by the cosmic gods. The warrior drops a reality check that he can't promise anything about tomorrow, but promises that if the kid actually levels up into a respected fighter, he'll have a legit reason to carry him. The unexpected hard carry offer leaves the student completely shocked and having no clue how to respond to so much hype. Trying to process his massive redemption arc, he takes a deep breath to reboot his system. Desperate for the glow-up, the youngest kid drops to his knees, grabs the warrior's leg, and basically begs for the tutorial, demanding to know exactly what class he needs to spec into. Looking down at the kid like a true master, Wolfgang declares that starting right now, he's going to become the ultimate pure tank build. The class selection totally shocks the kid, making him stutter, completely confused about the weird skill tree his new bro just forced on him. In another scene, the agent tells the explorer he just grabbed all the stats and says they just need to buy the perfect starter gear for the noob to practice with. Yurin totally agrees with the strategy, explaining the main quest is to buy a massive shield that perfectly fits the kid's size, completely removing the need to use any other weapon. The corporate guy gets the request and excitedly mentions some random buyer just ordered guard dog loot off the black market, meaning they can basically fast track crafting the gear right now. Interrupting the chat, the warrior suggests the ultimate strategy is to vibe check the crafting materials face to face before dropping any cash, making the hunter totally gasp and ask if they are literally doing that right this second. Carrying an absolutely massive loot drop on his back, the student asks who the heck actually bought this off the market, praying to God it wasn't his own dad. The sheer terror of running into his clan's boss gives the kid major anxiety, secretly begging that his dad has absolutely zero connection to this sketchy transaction. Just then, the girl hits them up with some urgency, saying she just got pinged by the school tutor demanding some answers. Far away from that spot, Jin Sung swipes out of his phone on a desk in a super dimly lit room after playing the voicemails. Staring the teacher down, the family prodigy totally loses his chill and demands the educator start dropping the lore about what's going on. The seasoned kid furiously asks if the teacher unlocked a new badge and is trying to force his little bro into another toxic contract, asking if he even comprehends the absolute nightmare cost of doing something like that. Noticing the teacher just leaving him on read, the young guy figures there aren't going to be any excuses and decides just ghosting the issue is the best play for everyone. The teacher tells his old student to just pack his bags and move far away, swearing he'll carry him if he needs it, but just gets told to stop poking his nose into serious business. Rejecting the carry, the prodigy spills that his little bro is officially in the warrior's party now, letting the tutor know he doesn't have to deal with the kid anymore. The sudden plot twist of pulling the kid out of the academy leaves the teacher shook, and he demands the guy stick to his original promise of enrolling the boy. Getting super serious, the teacher drops some Laura fighters in this class have to face down bosses at zero range, which requires absolute blind faith. Something you can't just hand to a kid who's only using the school to camp safely. The guy offers to actually turn the campus into a legit safe zone, but demands the veteran spill the exact truth on what is happening with his family before they shake on anything. Dropping into his chair, the hair reveals the Laura this whole dumpster fire started because his dad was never picked by a deity, even though he was a super famous try-hard martial artist back in the day. The kid gets depressed realizing that having a maxed out bank account doesn't buy you caught in the current meta, revealing that even his own cracked contract got nerfed by the gods recently. Holding a VIP access card for an elite hunter party, he exposes how fake the community is, mentioning his invite got instantly revoked the second the leaks dropped about his lack of powers. Looking absolutely devastated, the veteran warns that his try-hard dad would never just take an insult like that without retaliating, leaving the rest of the dark lore for the teacher to figure out. Doing the math super fast, Song Chil is totally mind-blown realizing the veteran martial artist actually downloaded a super legal dark contract just to get his clout back. The kid points out this whole mess is completely above their pay grade, highly doubting the official government admins have the guts to intercede against his dad for going totally rogue. Trying to piece together the fights in the yard earlier, the professor asks what the point of absolutely bullying the youngest kid was, thinking it was a total waste of time even with the cancelled contract. Looking super guilty, Jin Seong drops the bomb that his dad went totally crazy and came super close to wiping out the youngest bro, explaining he only tried to force the toxic contract on the kid just to keep him alive. Gripping his weapon tightly, the prodigy admits he only jumped his own family in front of everyone just to stop their dad from making a totally permanent and lethal move against the kid. The vibe gets incredibly dark when the young guy says the clan leader already called in the cleaner squad to scrub the city. Absolutely outraged, the teacher jumps out of his chair, completely shook by the sheer audacity of smuggling a high-tier assassination mafia right into the national server. Seeing the teacher totally glitch out, the veteran repeats that the boss fight is way too massively scaled, and there is no way the academy can handle the raid. Taking all the blame for his toxic behavior, the young guy accepts whatever ban the teacher wants to hand out, explaining he literally just did everything in his power to stop his little bro from losing his life. Weighed down by all the heavy lore, the educator drops back into his chair, admitting the whole situation has totally left his control radius. The hare gets totally consumed by bitterness, blaming his own massive fumble for the whole chaotic event, guessing his dad would still be mentally stable if the holy contract had never been nerfed. Noticing his former student looking so wrecked, the teacher listens to the kid admit he could never just stand by while his dad destroyed his own family. Showing absolutely unbreakable resolve, Jin Seong swears he'll find a way to patch this massive glitch in his family, no matter what happens. The very next day, the morning sun lights up the school's outdoor training grounds right in the middle of the city. Even totally drained, the kid loads into the brand new phase of his tutorial looking absolutely dead inside and completely out of energy. Dripping with charisma, the suit guy flexes a massive silver shield for the student, hyping him up and saying the kid is going to look totally cracked using that heavy armor. The heavy metal gear literally spins through the air until it just casually lands in the warrior's hand, who totally hypes up how light and durable the drop is for a beginner. The kid immediately starts whining, calling the tank build incredibly boring and complaining that there are infinitely cooler weapon skins like swords, spears, or hammers. Keeping a stone, cold face, the veteran tells the kid to stop dreaming and just swallow his actual limits, warning him he literally couldn't scratch a real opponent with his current trash stats. The fighter breaks it down: the entire meta shifts when you run a shield, because just focusing on tanking hits guarantees you won't get wiped in a real boss fight. This totally triggers the kid, who asks if he's basically just being called deadweight. Skipping the sugarcoating, the big dude confirms the student's stats are basically garbage right now and points out he hasn't even unlocked his true power scaling yet. Effortlessly tanking a heavy swing from the like it's nothing, the tutor hypes up his raw physical damage, but warns him that basic button mashing will never be enough to clear a shadow boss. The big guy counters the attack, charging his arm with a totally blinding aura, showing that the ultimate hack is dropping all your physical damage exactly on the frame of impact. Getting totally blasted backward by the heavy knockback, the kid uses his new gear to block the hit, while listening to the big guy drop truth. If he had this kind of mechanical skill during their brawl, he never would have needed to toggle those toxic dark magic cheats. The massive reality check finally shuts the kid up, and he just takes the lesson, finally realizing his own lack of skill and maturity. The camera cuts to the absolute fortress of the clan boss, hidden away in a super premium zone of seal. Totally hidden from snooping eyes, a secret staircase drops straight down into the locked basement of the mansion. Inside the creepy room, the family boss shows zero mercy, speed running the final phase of his twisted ritual using some random guy his suited goons captured. Completely covered in the messy aftermath of his totally evil strategy, the martial master curses out the official server admins and swears he'll solo his way to the top of society using this sketchy new buff. The super edgy black liquid from the sacrifice slowly drips until it completely floods out of an ancient stone bowl. The thick drops echo off the floor of the mystic altar, booting up the first sparks of the totally banned spell in the room. A massive red glowing ring lights up on the floor, instantly responding to the points the totally unhinged dad just offered up. Holding up the bowl with an absolutely psycho look on his face, the guy summons the ultimate boss of the shadows and hands over the fluid like a totally brainwashed servant. Outside the mansion, the sunny sky instantly gets swallowed by totally dark clouds, while the dad screams for the complete server wipe of the current society's fake structure. An insanely creepy tornado of magic rips through the sky right above the quiet house, spawning a massive red-eye dead center in the storm clouds. The wife flashes an absolutely hyped smile watching the ritual pop off, celebrating the promise of absolute control that's going to inject even more cash into the family's bank account. The red magic violently flashes across the basement floor, literally draining all the available matter and life points to fund the spell's final evolution. Puddles of pure edgy magic start boiling uncontrollably around the altar, permanently unlocking the shadow gates for the boss to spawn. A sphere of purple energy violently pulses, tearing the room's atmosphere apart to summon the overwhelmingly oppressive, Ancient Band Boss. An absolutely massive pillar of pure red magic blasts out of the floor at max power, totally nuking the stone layout of the basement. The boss's eyes go totally wide, completely mesmerized by the insane dark stats he just unlocked. With zero warning, a ridiculously huge monster arm shoots out from the abyss and violently grabs one of the loyal guards right by the face. Completely jump, scared by the trap, the minion can barely even react before getting wrecked by the terrifying summon. Pure panic instantly overwrites the greed on the martial master's face. He literally starts backing up and stuttering, begging the boss to chill out when he realizes how hostile the summon actually is. The desperate pleas just get ignored as massive limbs completely trash the room, totally wiping the rest of the guards in absolute chaos. The monster's true skin finally fully renders in the basement, dropping incredibly hostile vibes while chained up right in the middle of the wreckage. Totally traumatized that her dream just turned into a nightmare, the wife cowers and screams for her husband, demanding to know how their god, Tear Strat, totally failed. The gross leftovers from the evil ritual violently splash across the room, landing right on the completely stunned face of the clan boss. Dripping in the red loot of the sacrificed humans, the massive spike boss, just silently death, stares at his newest, weakest level, one slaves with an absolutely horrifying face. The giant beast casually lifts the grabbed guard with zero effort, totally flexing his rage right in front of the martial master. Shaking in her boots from the literal horror movie scene, the wife stutters out her husband's name, while the dad just watches everything completely perplexed. The beast unhinges its massive jaw, showing off nightmare. Fuel teeth ready to instantly charge at its target. With an absolutely brutal animation, the monster totally crushes the minion, blasting a shockwave of edgy magic across the ruined basement. The dark creature's glowing red eyes instantly lock on to its next target, radiating completely suffocating boss energy. Absolutely losing it, the clan boss tells his assistant he's totally been locked out of his controls, terrified to admit his avatar is literally moving on its own. Miles away, Seong hears his dad's voice echoing in his brain, desperately begging for someone to call for a carry. The assistant catches the painful voice chat too, hearing the boss demand they summon the kids to cancel this total server wipe. Literally getting consumed by the shadow rendering, the fighting master tries to warn of the danger while fighting to keep his last bit of sanity online. The absolutely massive area of effect of the dark ritual hits the entire metropolis, turning the moon totally blood red in the night sky. Random people out on the streets spot the crazy sky glitch and start totally panicking, having zero idea what event just dropped on humanity. Speed walking down the unlit sidewalks, the oldest hair feels his smartphone totally spam, vibrating inside his jacket. On the other end of the call, the assistant is literally screaming in pure panic, pinging the kid and warning him that an absolute disaster just dropped. The employee can barely string a sentence together about the clan boss, making the prodigy realize his dad actually managed to execute his nightmare strategy. The camera cuts back to the Archaeology Guild's basement, where the squad is grouping up to start the Little Brothers combat tutorial. Scanning the room, Junwon asks how they are supposed to run drills in such a tiny drop zone, super stressed that one bad move is gonna trash all the premium loot. The explorer totally agrees about the map size, using the moment to tell the student to just chill out, reminding him he totally throws his balance when he attacks too anxiously. The giant warrior backs her up, warning that button, mashing just hands out free counters to the enemy, reminding the kid how he totally abused that against him in their last match. Taking a deep breath to lower his stress level, the kid grips the heavy gear and swears he'll actually follow the tutorial steps as best he can. Locked in on the survival lesson, Wu drops his center of gravity and raises the massive silver shield, locking into a super solid tank stance. The fighter orders the kid to hold that heavy posture and casually drops that he's totally going to nerf his own damage for this first collision test. With absolutely zero wind up, Wolfgang throws a straight punch right into the iron barrier, setting off a brutal shockwave that rattles the entire room. The sheer insane power of the strike kicks up a massive gust of wind, making Yurin totally flinch at the volume of the hit. Hiding behind his iron wall, the little brother grinds his teeth, feeling the absolutely massive kinetic energy trying to flatten his whole body at once. The totally savage strike pushes the student back several meters, straight up shattering the lab's floor tiles as he fights just to not get blown away. Out of breath and literally shaking from stamina drain, Wu totally rages, asking if that was actually the master's idea of a friendly tap. Casually checking his hand, the warrior hypes up the fact that the kid didn't get knocked down, pointing out he kept his word and barely even grazed the metal plate. Standing off to the side, the corporate guy and the girl just stare at the absolutely wrecked lab floor, totally silent at the massive repair bill he just caused. The giant orders the kid to perfectly clip that feeling and stance into his memory, getting a totally exhausted but determined yes from the student. Watching the whole scene play out, the suit realizes the giant dude actually takes coaching super seriously, remembering he's basically an ultra rare pull with insanely broken stats on his profile. Overhearing the thoughts, the fighter sarcastically asks if they are crying over the test barrier that just shattered from a tiny little bump, leaving the corporate guy totally speechless. Right then, the smartphone left on the crafting bench starts ringing totally non-stop. The employee picks up the voice chat super casually, totally clueless about the absolute nightmare info waiting for him on the other end. Meanwhile, the big guy keeps dropping totally hardcore advice that makes his partner laugh out of pure anxiety, completely roasting how easily the kid drops his gourd. The whole tutorial vibe instantly flatlines when Junwon screams in absolute terror on the call, begging them to repeat the totally unreal news he just heard. Going into full panic mode, the suit yells that he has an emergency quest to handle and literally sprints at max speed toward the exit. The explorer nervously asks what just dropped that was so serious, while the fighter's face goes totally deadpan, instantly sensing a massive boss-level threat spawning nearby. Out on the street, Jin Seung gets the bad intel and totally loses his mind, realizing his dad actually fully completed the absolute worst shadow summoning ritual in the game. The suit figures out from a distance that the plot just evolved from a sketchy bad deal into a total server wipe, cursing the absolute infinite toxicity of that clan. The heavily damaged assistant reveals the martial arts master was still fighting a mental debuff when he managed to escape, begging them to speed, run over there and try to cancel the summon. Trying to tank all the blame, the hare tells tutor Seong Chil he's gonna solo the boss, asking the master to just ping the server admins and law enforcement. The teacher instantly denies the request, reminding him that spawning a literal monster totally voids the family drama excuse, meaning his skills as a pro tracker are absolutely mandatory right now. The incredibly stressed minion tries to tag along to rescue his wife, but Jin Seong orders him to stay put and call for emergency backup. Without hesitating for a single second, the kid and the master pop through the city's dark streets, rushing straight toward the spawn point of that evil energy. Down in the basement, Wolfgang declares that the vibes are officially cursed and tells his partner he needs to dip immediately to check out that terrifying vibration in the atmosphere. The hunter chases after him, complaining about the lack of party support and accusing the big guy of just inventing an excuse to dodge the totally boring chore of sweeping the floor. As they step out of the building, Yeren gets completely disoriented, noticing the sky is pitch black, knowing for a fact the sun should still be up right now. The fighter's face locks into absolute hunt mode as he focuses all his stats on the hidden boss energy that just hijacked the map. Using his serious voice, he drops the bomb that an edgy entity just literally spawned on Earth, leaving the girl completely shook by the update. The big guy asks why she's so surprised, bringing up her student's toxic contract, but the archaeologist explains that an actual physical spawn is totally unreleased content and doesn't just glitch into reality like that. Gulping down her fear, the explorer starts dreading a massive game over, listening to the warrior confirm that the server's firewall for this era is definitely way past its expiration date. An absolutely aggressive aura starts dripping off Wolfgang's character model, and he gets super hyped, realizing the darkness just launched its final raid event on the world. Violet lightning literally starts exploding around the room, fueled by the veteran's hype, finally feeling the payoff of waiting over a literal 1,000 years for this boss fight. Miles away, Jin Seung is absolutely booking it down the empty sidewalks, burning all his stamina to reach his house's front door. The kid grinds his teeth fighting his own stamina bar, praying silently with max anxiety that he doesn't miss the raid timer at the disaster zone. Completely ignoring locks or warning signs, he uses raw physical power to just shatter the security gates and force his way onto the property. The up-and-coming kid freezes dead in the middle of the yard, his eyes practically popping out of his head in absolute terror at what his dad's strats just unlocked. The absolutely busted power of the dark ritual caused massive map damage to the estate, completely deleting the family's premium mansion. A colossal beam of pure red energy nukes the house from the inside out, shooting up like a pillar of fire straight into the glitched out sky. Trying to tank the absolutely brutal shockwave, the son screams out for his dad right in the middle of all that chaotic damage. Standing in the middle of all the flying dirt and ruined textures, the hare looks up, desperately trying to compute any kind of strategy against that absolutely broken power. The family prodigy stutters, literally shaking from head to toe, asking what kind of nightmare boss just spawned in. An infinite beam of red magic keeps beaming down from the glitched moon, carving a massive canyon straight through the middle of the modern city map. The destructive impact from the magic hitting the earth rattles entire city blocks, spamming a wave of pure destruction across the premium neighborhood. Totally confident in his build, Wolfgang grips his vintage sword and casually orders Yurin to go camp in a safe zone far away from the boss room. Super stressed by his totally reckless play, the explorer begs him not to overextend and just back out, warning him that the official guild's support squad is probably already loading in. Completely ignoring the tip, the heavy hitter straight up shatters the concrete under his boots to charge up an absolutely massive jump boost. Flexing his absolutely god-tier physical stats, the hero launches himself, literally clipping through the city's skyline while casually gripping his massive sword. The raw kinetic energy of his launch instantly turns the street asphalt into dust across a massive radius, proving just how insane the boomer fighter's jump actually was. Zooming through the sky like a literal missile straight for the Pillar of Light, the warrior decides the boss better get ready for the most brutal raid of its life. Back in the completely nuked garden, the red fire is casually melting every single piece of premium loot that greedy family had hoarded. The oldest kid tries to reset his breathing in the toxic fog, choking on the dirt while scanning the area for any NPCs that survived the wipe. In absolute panic mode, the hare stares at the flames, begging his dad to regain control of his avatar and not just hand his account over to the shadows. As a totally ruthless counter to his begging, a massive spiked chain gets thrown straight out of the red inferno with absolute aim. But precision. The cheap shot snags Jin, Seong, and yanks him straight into the air, making him scream in totally unbearable pain after getting caught by the boss's grab attack. The monster's edgy black arm is gripping the end of the magic chain, giving a brutal reality check to the kid's cries by proving his dad's account is officially completely hijacked. Pinned to the ground by the glowing chains, the kid listens to the entity totally mock him, telling him he really doesn't need to be so sad about getting speed run to a sudden end. In that exact frame, the massive beast drops its ultimate edgy villain plot to literally wipe out every single player on the server, announcing it's starting the wipe right now with the Martial Master and Jin.